She went under the wheels.
How perfected.
Welcome to Under the Wheels. I'm Matthew.
I'm Gabe.
And in today's exciting episode, we go back to the Vietnam War and Spike.
Today's very patriotic episode because it's July 3rd.
Oh, God. Now we have a time frame on. Now you forced my hand. Now I either leave this part in or cut it out and I get a longer deadline. But maybe I'll be like the Disney animators and put in like 18-hour days for crunch time. 18-hour days for 2 weeks in a row. I didn't see my family, and now I won't stop shaking. But yeah, we're turning back we're being as patriotic as we can as we review the Five Bloods, the new Spike Lee joint now playing on Netflix.
Oh man, we could have watched Born on the 4th of July and then reviewed it on the 4th of July.
There's nothing more patriotic than recording a patriotic broadcast on the 4th of July and then releasing it on like the 10th.
I know. No, at this rate, probably like the 20th.
Maybe. Yeah, you're probably right. Probably the 20th. What do you mean you took a day off of work just so you could edit the podcast that makes you no money? Creative fulfillment, guys. Creative fulfillment.
Because it makes me happy.
It does.
I don't know what that is.
But happiness.
You know, it's that thing that every company sells to people, but somehow can't seem to produce.
Just buy Coca-Cola. It will make you happy. I did buy Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola. It hasn't made me happy yet. Well, you know why? Because you didn't buy enough. Buy more Coca-Cola. Freaking... all of a sudden you have like, you know, it's like maxed out like 8 credit cards and nothing but pallets of Coca-Cola. Is this supposed to make me happy? No, but you'll die happy from diabetes. Like,
Your arteries are so clogged it's cutting off the blood flow from to your brain. You'll soon begin hallucinating, and that'll be the happy part.
The endorphins, man. The endorphins. Like, there's going to be a company that literally just sells like a little pill endorphins. You just take it, and it's like, it'll release the endorphins in your brain. Literally just a sugar pill. The ultimate placebo effect.
I mean, my girlfriend's like thoroughly convinced we're halfway there to like Brave New World, basically. So, I mean, I feel like that would be the next logical step.
You're going to have to run through why, because isn't everyone desensitized to emotion in Brave New World? Or like they go to a place and like trip drugs to get happy and everyone's actually depressed?
Like hormones are delivered in drug form.
Oh, that's right.
Like serotonin and endorphins and things like that.
That's right.
Which is like, that's kind of how psychiatric medication works, but you can't get it without a prescription. So I figure it's only a matter of time before it's like recreationally available. So, you know. Oh, and it's also just the idea of like entertainment and distraction being used to keep people compliant. You know, if people are just kind of running on a hamster wheel constantly and they get occasional breaks to watch some, you know, lousy feel-good Disney cartoon.
Hey, cheap shot.
Then, you know, they won't have really the time or the energy or the wherewithal to try and change anything.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I guess you can kind of see this with like a bunch of people not going to work now wanting to change a bunch of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So.
I've always said that in America, we have kind of a cult of happiness where happiness is the goal for everything, and we kind of look down on any sort of negative emotions. It's where you get those stupid self-help people that are like, cut out the negativity in your life, or whatever. Like, first of all, negativity is important. Don't cut it out. Second of all, I think we as a society are enamored with this idea of happiness because happy people don't complain, and happy people don't, they don't rock the boat.
Yeah, but then you get a bunch of people who are like the annual pass holders at Disney World who are just like, I'm entitled to be happy right now. And they're like, ma'am, it's 3 a.m. The park's not open. You can't get in right now. I'm entitled to be in there.
It's also like that whole idle hands are the devil's playground idea, where it's like you have to be working constantly so you don't have to think about your life. Very, very Protestant, puritanical philosophy.
Yeah, I guess so, but like a lot of creative people will say like they envy the people who work the 9-to-5 jobs where they don't do anything because all they can do like as they're just like pressing a button over and over is think about like creative things they want to do when they get home, which is like kind of true. but like also kind of not true because
it's completely untrue.
it's kind of true. It's kind of true.
But
because the people,
no matter how draining your creative work is, you're still doing creative work, and you're spending your energy like correctly.
Right.
You know,
well, I mean, like we're talking about like people who just sit at a computer and punch numbers in, right? We're not talking about people who like, because like they say teaching is really bad if you want to be a writer, because when you're teaching you have to use so much of your energy for teaching, whereas if you're just like pressing a button over and over again, all of your like, you're not going to expend 100% of your energy on just like hitting a little trigger there. Like you're going to be like, wow, this spreadsheet of numbers is boring. I wonder what I could do that's better. God, I wonder what people in the computers live. And then all of a sudden you have a job at Pixar.
Well, if you have to get the job at Pixar before your soul dies.
That's true.
You have a limited window before your like humanity is crushed to oblivion.
That's true. Well, basically you have to be snatched out of to work at like a place like Pixar. You have to be like snatched from birth to draw. So maybe that's a bad correlation.
Okay, DreamWorks.
Yeah, that's.
You can get a job at DreamWorks.
Or like those knockoff studios that put out like the really shit like DreamWorks will come out with like How to Train Your Dragon, and then like this other knockoff studio will come out with like the Dragon Tamers or the Dragon Trainers, How to Be One, and it's like the
How to Teach Your Lizard.
How to Teach Your Dragon, Komodo. Like what? That's what? Hey man, what have you been watching this past time?
Few weeks
elapsed.
Shit, what have I been? Not a whole lot. I've mostly been playing video games, trying to get through the Outer Worlds.
Again? I thought you had already beaten it.
No. I was in the middle of it, but I have now completed it.
Okay. Well, you're a big fan of the Outer Worlds, is that right?
I'm a decently big fan. Yeah,
Okay.
It's pretty low budget.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of fun, and I think it's like, I mean, Obsidian's kind of a smaller studio, so they're not going to make any big AAA games necessarily, but it's like everything that this game is kind of everything that people like about Fallout, with basically just all of the fat cut off. So it streamlines everything to focus on like these really complicated branching and intertwining stories and quests and stuff, and then everything is there to support that basically. So you have like competent combat, leveling systems, companions, and environments and stuff, but nothing is like, the environments for example aren't crazy filled with things to do or seek out. They're more there to facilitate the quests, which are the centerpiece.
Yeah, it's a hallway.
Yeah, it's a very elaborate hallway.
Yeah. I mean, hey, dude, not everything has to be, like Uncharted level of detail to the point where you walk into it and your arm clips through a rock and you're like...
No, not at all. And I mean, I think it's a good choice given, like, every art form, but I think video games especially, because there's so much money and just technology involved, you have to make sacrifices of, okay, I'm going to privilege this aspect of the game at the expense of this aspect of the game, depending on what kind of experience you're trying to deliver. And I think that for the Outer Worlds, they made all the right sacrifices for what they were trying to do, given the resources that they had.
Right. Well, these are the guys. They're like a, after Black Isle shut down, they're like a splinter group, right? Or they're like mainly the same people who worked on the original Fallout.
Yeah, it's the same people from Black Isle.
Okay.
But yeah, other than that, what have I watched? I watched The Guest, which I'd been meaning to see for a long time, just because it's like, it just sounded cool as an idea, and it's a good movie. It's like a solid witness, or maybe even a high witness.
Yeah, I liked The Guest a lot. I liked, I like Dan Stevens for the most part, even though he's just kind of gotten a rap playing bad guys lately, which,
Well, he plays the same character in everything. He plays kind of like the polite, possibly bad guy.
No, lately he's just been playing the bad guy. Like, straight up. There's, like, no qualms about it. But, like, what's his name? The guy from John Wick, runs
Lance Reddick?
Yeah, Lance Reddick. I always like seeing him.
Dude, I'm having like I've been going through like some weird Bader Meinhof thing with Lance Reddick, where it's like he's just appearing everywhere all of a sudden. I can't get away from him.
You're like, damn it, Lance Reddick, just stand up all the way straight. You don't have to lean forward slightly in every movie, god damn it. It's not improving your performance.
It's like I watch The Guest, I leave my room, my brother's playing Horizon Zero Dawn, and the first person to talk is Lance Reddick, and then I'm like, fuck, and then I turn on TV, and then there's John Wick, and I'm like, Jesus, he's everywhere.
Well, the thing is, so he and Keith David need to be in like an animated movie or whatever where like it's just their two voices because they have such deep voices, and like Clancy Brown can be the bad guy, and it's just like the voice of nothing but bass, like interesting voices.
Oh my god. The aces of base.
But I also like Leland Orser in that, where he's always like, "Hey man, you want another drink? Hey man, you want a drink? My job is horrible."
Well, I love how clueless and just stupid the parents are in that movie.
I know. It's my least favorite character, where like the daughter and the son, like the siblings of the guy. He's like, "I'm here to protect you guys. I said I'd look after you guys." I was like, they're my least favorite characters. Dan Stevens going around fucking shit up. Cool, I'm in.
I know. It's a fun movie, and it's interesting because it's very clearly like a throwback to old '80s movies, but it also kind of makes fun of them.
Yeah.
And it is sort of, I like that style of taking something that's very familiar and then hiding another genre in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like you'd think it's going to be like, okay, it's like the kind of weird guest shows up type horror or slasher movie, and then hidden inside of it's Terminator. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was cool. Like, I love all the whole Halloween maze at the end and all the music and stuff.
Yeah.
So I do like that they leave things unexplained as to like what exactly is Dan Stevens' character. You know, what's his real face? What's his real name?
Yeah.
All that stuff. I was wondering, like, and you know, obviously what's cool is it leaves it open to wild, baseless speculation. Mm-hmm. So my baseless fan theory is that Dan Stevens is actually their older brother who went insane and had facial reconstruction surgery to look like this other guy.
Did you Google to see wild fan theories on The Guest?
Not at all. I don't want to know what other people think. I only care what I think.
I think even the creators, I don't think they've ever come out and said exactly what happened, because it's kind of like the whole like the light in the briefcase with Pulp Fiction. It's like it's better if you have no idea. Well,
the light in the briefcase from Pulp Fiction is just from Kiss Me Deadly.
Oh, is that what it's in reference to?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
In Kiss Me Deadly, it's about Detective Mike Hammer from those Mickey Spillane books. You know, there's like a nuclear weapon in Los Angeles that he has to find, and it's in that briefcase.
Of course there's a nuclear weapon in Los Angeles.
So like at the end of Kiss Me Deadly, you know, someone opens up the briefcase and it like melts their house or whatever.
I know we talked about like empty although that's funny in like a 1950s sci-fi kind of way, where it's like you open up the briefcase, it's like, see this, and they open up the briefcase, they have all of those like lines that are drawn, and it's like and then like, you just see like the house like slowly melt from like someone holding there's like a clay version of the house, and someone's just holding a hairdryer.
When they open the briefcase, it's just a bright light, exactly like Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
So yeah, The Guest is a good movie. I think there's the original version of the movie is much longer and has them go into very great detail of like Dan Stevens' whole backstory. Mm-hmm. And it didn't test well with audiences. And apparently the writer and director were very happy that those scenes didn't test well because they didn't want them in there.
Oh, it was a studio note?
So
it
was a studio note.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, to put them in. Okay. So it's like, audiences don't like it, and then they cut them all.
They cut them all, and then they released it in theaters and no one saw it. Is the joke really on?
I feel like The Guest is kind of a cult.
It's definitely movie. Yeah. I forgot. I think was Austin the one who's kind of pushing that on us? I feel like someone was like, you should
I thought
see
it was Red Letter Media, but
it might have been, but I had seen it somewhere else because I'd watched it before I watched the Red Letter Media thing because they were talking about like like when he's sitting upright and he's just staring. We thought that was really cool because it's like he's like on sleep mode, like when you put your computer to sleep. And I was like, yeah, that's kinda cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool little details like that.
Yeah. Again, you have to pick and choose your details and like.
Yeah.
But like those little things help so much too.
Yeah,
Like,
well,
details
it's
like
cool
that.
because they just very subtly lean into the sci-fi elements of the movie.
Yeah, that's what I like. For some reason, like I love like huge, super hard sci-fi movies, but I also like every now and then you'll get this random story where there's like one sci-fi element, and they're like, oh yeah, my sci-fi movie with this one random sci-fi element in here, but it's in there, so it's science fiction.
I really like gritty, like hard-boiled crime / horror movies that have like one sci-fi or one horror or one fantasy element to them.
Yeah.
That I don't know. I think that stuff's cool. I think there should be more movies like that where it's like everything is normal except like this guy is a experimental super soldier who has like fucking superpowers and murders everybody.
It's like, does that really count as science fiction? Yes. Yes, it does.
It
100%.
does. Hell yeah. See, I also watched Tangerine.
I'm curious.
The movie that's famous for being shot on an iPhone 5S.
Yeah, multiple. Three of them, I think.
Wow. Okay, 3 of the same phone.
How was that?
It's actually really good.
Yeah.
I kind of thought it would, like, I was going in expecting, like, some gimmicky crap, but it's actually really good. I've seen half of the Florida Project, so there's definitely a lot of similarities you can draw between the two movies.
Right.
Sean Baker is a big fan of, like, that ultra-realistic, like, kitchen sink style where it's, like, it's noisy, everyone's constantly talking over each other and yelling at each other, and, like, there's a lot of slang and like everyone speaks in their own vernacular that's particular to whatever subculture they're in. So it's always interesting when like those subcultures cross and people are almost speaking different languages to each other, even though like obviously it's all English.
Yeah.
And then he also has kind of this, like it is very realistic and stuff, but it is also it's also very stylized where like especially in the calmer moments, everything's presented almost in like a Wes Anderson-y way. Like everything's very flat until suddenly it's not, and then it becomes like really dramatic and stuff. I mean, one thing I appreciate about Tangerine is that it's just a day in the life of these two like trans prostitutes, and it's very slice of life, goes through the highs and lows of all the bullshit that they do and that they have to deal with, but like the movie it's really good at going from like very calm and serene to like super kinetic and like angry or anxious, like just emotionally cranked up, and then back. And it goes through that loop several times, and it does it really smoothly, which is impressive. And it's also it's nice to see a movie that is like 110% sincere. There's like not a shred of irony or any kind of there's no attempt by the creators to distance themselves from what's going on in order to maintain some kind of like higher than thou posturing,
I think so.
Which is like, because like a lot of blockbusters are extremely ironic. There's a lot of ironic posturing. There's a lot of cynicism. And there's a lot of distance where, like, the people who make these crappy movies like Jurassic World, for example, being one of the worst offenders, like, they know Jurassic World sucks. Like, they know it's a giant pile of shit. So they do it in this weird way where it's like, here's this shitty movie. We know it's shitty, and we're going to be ironic about it, so that way we can put ourselves above it and not really have to own it in any way. Tangerine, on the other hand, it's like, whatever you think of this movie, like, we believe in what we're putting on screen. There's no irony, no cynicism. It's all sincere, and I appreciate that as well.
I'm guessing it has that sort of like that energy that a lot of like really cheap but really passionate indie projects have. You can see the passion come through on the screen.
Oh yeah. Well, and you can tell like the folks who are making this movie, including the actors, were just like running around LA with iPhones and just having a blast.
Yeah. That's the feeling I get from the trailer. I always thought that was his first movie, but that's like his like fifth.
It's like he's made a few, but just no one cared.
Well, I mean, good for him that he keeps finding ways to fund them. I give it up to him because he's able to make movies on subjects that I would never have any interest in, right? But he does it in a way that like maybe not. I know that with Tangerine and with the Florida Project, they're very well received, and I think one of his movies is like pretty well received. But he's kind of made that next step to where like whatever he's doing, as long as he has full creative control, has been fairly receptive to everyone who's seen it. It's been, you know, something special. Yeah. So like he's a filmmaker. Like,
oh, definitely.
Like he's a filmmaker. Did you ever read Understanding Comics by Scott McCloud?
No, I've read Making Comics by Scott McCloud.
Making Comics is the better of the two, but Understanding Comics has this one section where he talks about the 6 layers to the apple of creativity, or like of being a professional comic artist. Whereas like the 6th layer is like pure surface level, but as you get deeper and deeper, you come to this idea of one, what do I want to say through my medium, the form, what do I want to say, and 2, what can I say about the medium itself? And I feel like he's probably like a 1 guy where he's like, I have an idea and I want to make it a film. Whereas people like I would say like Martin Scorsese or Steven Spielberg are like 2, what can I do about the medium itself? Like, what can I say through the medium itself? Or
I don't know about that, because, I mean, I feel like filming a movie with iPhones is trying to say something about the medium itself.
I think so, but I also think that that's just what they could get, what they could make, what they could afford. Because, like, that's...
I think... Oh, you kidding me? An iPhone 5S costs so much more than a DSLR. Back in that day?
At the time? I don't know, because, like, at least if you have, like, 3 people who all have iPhone 5Ss... Like, it's the same reason why, like, this is going to sound weird, but, or I guess it won't sound weird, but, like, a lot of, like, reality competitions that had to start doing everything at home, they just sent people a bunch of iPhones, because it's cheaper to buy, I mean, especially now, it's cheaper to buy an iPhone and just have it set up and connect to the network. But, like, DSLRs, I don't know, I feel like it was just cheaper to do it with the iPhone, because people
there's no potential for user error. Because you're
iPhone.
talking about a reality show, right? So
yeah.
People who are on reality shows, you're asking stupid reality stars to film themselves. They're not professional camera operators. Sean Baker is a professional camera operator, you know?
Yeah, but so do you think it was just like a challenge? Like, oh, I've come up with this idea, and...
I think it was just, like, Sean Baker seems to be really interested in, like, these ultra kitchen sink realist slice of life stories.
Kitchen sink realist. So I'm gonna have to ask you about that in a second, but go ahead.
So, you know, especially of, you know, slices of life that are not commonly seen or portrayed on screen, like poor people living in a crappy Orlando motel.
Yeah.
I think using iPhones, it's 2 things. 1, it's a gimmick. 2, it's to sell the realism factor, right? Because, like, remember when people started shaking the camera a bunch in movies to make it feel like a documentary and therefore somehow more real?
Yeah.
Well, I think this is just taking that one step further. It's like, well, let's film it on iPhones. We're on the street. We're in the real world. It's filmed on a phone. There's nothing more real than that, man. So I think it's both a gimmick to sell tickets and just an aesthetic choice that merges with the type or the feeling of the story that I think is important to him.
I was gonna say, did the film feel more realistic? Because when I look at things shot on an iPhone, especially like I've only watched the trailer, but it looks like hyper stylized. Like it doesn't read as a normal, like, this is realism. It reads to me from the trailer as, you know, like because of like how wide the lens is and how small the sensor is.
Yeah,
Like-
it's ultra wide lenses, ultra small sensors. So and it is stylized in terms of like its shot composition and its editing for sure. Like Sean Baker's movies are very stylized, but they're stylized in a way that I think audiences are supposed to read as realism. Because at the end of the day, realism is a style.
Yeah. Interesting. I don't know. I just, yeah. This episode you've been saying kitchen sink realism, and it makes me think of Umberto D. Is that, like, with the Italian neo-realists, is that where the phrase came from?
I think kitchen sink realism comes from British movies in the 1960s, but it basically means like the most realistic subject matter, quote unquote realistic subject matter possible. So it's just ordinary people, ordinary situations, like stuff that you could go out in the real world and see right now.
Right.
Type of thing. Like the idea of kitchen sink is like, one, it includes everything, including the kitchen sink, but it's like,
Okay.
Something as mundane as the kitchen sink could be a source of drama if you're some pretentious Italian or whatever. I don't know.
Well, there's that I think it's Umberto D. There's this like extended period where they just show a girl washing dishes, and I was like, is that what he's talking about? Is that why the kitchen?
I mean,
sink?
maybe
Like,
kitchen sink realism is one of those terms I've heard so much it's almost lost its meaning.
right.
So let me look up the origin, just to clear it up for our listeners. Okay, kitchen sink realism is a British cultural movement that developed in the late 1950s and early 1960s. Is a style of social realism which depicted the domestic situations of working class Britons living in cramped rented accommodations and spending their off hours drinking in grimy pubs to explore controversial social and political issues. The harsh, realistic style contrasted sharply with the escapism of the previous generation's so-called well-made plays, which would be like prestige,
Right.
Costume dramas and whatnot.
Yeah. Masterpiece theater versus like the Bourne Identities camera while people are walking their dog.
It is Laurence Olivier's Shakespeare movies versus The Bicycle Thief.
I thought you were going to say Laurence Olivier's Shakespeare movies versus Kenneth Branagh's King Henry V. The grim, dark fantasy of Henry V. By the way, Kenneth Branagh's Henry V with, Ian Holm, sorry, rest in peace, is actually really good. I was watching a clip of it the other day and I was like,
I think
I didn't even
his
watch
Henry
that.
V is generally considered to be his best movie.
I mean, I don't agree with that, but I can see it. That's what he was nominated for Best Picture and Best Actor for. So
Yeah, it's definitely not his Hamlet with all the gratuitous sex scenes. Because if one
see, that's my
if
favorite.
one
of his
Shakespeare
movies.
play needs gratuitous sex scenes,
It's fucking Hamlet.
it's Hamlet.
Oh man, I love that movie though.
It's so it's good, but it's so trashy.
I know it kind of is, but it's so like the cinematography is so amazing. Like the cinematography is great, the production design is great. It's got all these great actors in it. The locations are amazing, and then all of a sudden it's just like random flashback to Kenneth Branagh like going hard on Kate Winslet for no reason.
I know, who's like 20 years younger than he is. Jesus Christ, man.
I know. I was worried that like I was watching his version of the Orient Express and like Daisy Ridley's on there and I'm like, please, I do not I do not need like Hercule Poirot like making out with Daisy Ridley just because she's an up and coming actress. Like no. No Kenneth Branagh. And then he makes that movie where it's like Shakespeare's latter days and like his estranged marriage to Judi Dench and I'm like, what? And so like you have like Kenneth Branagh like flirting with Judi Dench and it's just kind of like, what? I have not seen it. I'm just assuming based off of the description. A romance between Kenneth Branagh and Judi Dench. So he went 20 years younger with Kate Winslet and he went like 20 years older with Judi Dench. Sure.
What a weirdo.
Sure. Why not?
He also directed apparently that awful looking Artemis Fowl movie.
I know. I was sad.
I mean, I remember like reading the Artemis Fowl books when I was like 7. And, they were fun, but it's like, I can't imagine. I was trying to think when I heard that they were going to make a movie. I'm like, man, what kind of how would that look as a movie? And seeing what's come out about this new one, I'm like, yeah, it's about as bad as I thought it would be.
I mean, it's weird because like you would think it's come out so late. It took so long for them to make it, and you'd think that they would want to use that as a mechanism to get people to read the book, and I think it will in all the wrong ways.
Well, no, you'd think Disney would use it to get people onto Disney Plus who were skeptical or whatever.
You would, well, yeah, that's the other thing. But like Disney owns Artemis Fowl, like it's their publishing
the books too.
Yeah, so like it's in their best interest if it does well to keep making more books, which means that or keep people buying more books, which then could make another movie, which won't happen.
Yeah, I don't think that's. I just don't see it. It seems like Disney's business model is, what's a popular piece of like children's or young adult media from like 20 years ago, where everyone who saw or read that is now an adult and has money. Let's make that into a movie.
They're nostalgic for it,
so they can spend all their money for nostalgia reasons, and they can, if they have kids, they can bring their kids and be like, see, this is what I was into when I was your age, and God, I feel ashamed of myself, or not. I don't know.
I will say the one thing that I really like about Disney Plus is they basically have the movie and the behind the scenes featurettes or all of the the Blu-ray or DVD extras all in one place, which is terrible if you like buying physical media and you like all that stuff. And now it's like that market is going to collapse, but it's nice if, for example, I don't want to buy the Blu-ray version of, I don't know, Fun and Fancy Free, and I just want to see a bunch of people saying like, "Oh yeah, I animated that whole scene in 3 days," like
I've scrolled through Disney Plus and seen almost most of their library, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
And other than Star Wars and some of the Pixar movies, I don't think there's a single thing on there that I would want to own. So they can have all those special features up for all I care.
I mean, the thing is, like, I think their documentary stuff is good, but again, it's also puff pieces because, like,
yeah, who cares?
Well, I like them.
Like I said, who cares?
But that's just it. It's like they're not doing fantastic on some of the stuff. Like, I think their releases I don't really care about, but like if they have like this behind the scenes thing of like all of the technical detail that went into kind of creating the phenomenon of like Hamilton on stage, yeah, you're right, I will watch that. Or like a retrospective on The Lion King and how it affected everyone and bringing it to Broadway and all the struggles Julie Taymor faced as a person who wasn't successful and has not been successful since then. Like what that all entails. I'm like, that's cool. Like I'm glad I didn't buy the 50th anniversary edition because like that's the only thing that I would watch on it. But I digress. I think Disney Plus is they're doing a couple of things that I find really interesting. Okay. Yeah.
I feel like the Lion King CGI animated movie would have been so much better if it was just like a cinematic adaptation of the Julie Taymor play.
Yeah. I know the problem was that it was not stylized enough. I was telling Aaliyah that the Lion King live action one, I was saying that it basically looks like those old BBC joke shows where they have like a British commentator like saying goofy lines out of animals who look like they're talking. Like that's the movie.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's like, oh wow, look at how cute baby Simba is with his cold, dead eyes and expressionless face.
Look at the having seen it, the worst person in there like is Timon because he acts like a meerkat. So he'll be saying his line and then all of a sudden he'll randomly be like scratching his head in the middle of a line. And you're like, what? What is this adding to the movie? Like this isn't. And the biggest shame is it's such amazing.
What did they do with
technology.
Zazu?
Oh yeah, it's
He's
the same
a fucking
thing.
Bird.
Yeah, with Zazu, he's like lifting his beak up and down, but looking around constantly. It's great. I'm glad you put so many artists. You gave them a paycheck for this, and like it is incredible that you get this level of photorealism, especially in environments, which is what I cared more about apparently, because I was looking at the environments. I was like, my God, they're amazing looking. But like,
well, no, the environments were photographed on film.
No, I think they created the environments digitally. I think they created everything.
Not according to Roger Deakins.
Really?
Yeah, because Roger Deakins on his podcast was saying one of his buddies was the DP on Lion King and went to Africa and shot a bunch of locations, and then they populated those locations with CGI animals.
Yeah, he probably shot locations for photo references, and then they built them digitally, because I'm pretty sure it was all built digitally, like all of the environments and everything. Because
that sounds like a colossal wave.
I mean, this is gonna sound weird. That's what they ended up doing with Call of the Wild. Where Harrison Ford is like awkwardly petting Terry Notary on the head as a dog, but the technology is amazing, but it doesn't matter if the result is shit.
I'm just imagining like Harrison Ford petting fucking what's his name? Gollum?
Andy Serkis.
Andy Serkis in a mocap suit while Andy Serkis is acting like he's a husky or whatever, or a wolf.
And then they just take out his whole body and replace it with like the dog doing something completely different, and you're like, what the fuck? What was the point of the reference person there?
Then I imagine like Andy Serkis just licking the side of Harrison Ford's face, like the whole side of it.
He just turned to Harrison Ford. He looks straight into the camera and he's like, "They're spending a lot of money on this." Like,
I know. I think I'm gonna go smoke a bunch of weed and then crash my plane again.
Hey, can you give me those uppers? I'm gonna need them to get through this movie. Shit. Fucking finished indeed, sir. Finished indeed.
Finished.
With that said, I actually really liked The Call of the Wild.
Ugh. So yeah, what have you been watching lately?
I'm gonna just say 3 movies because I've been watching a shit ton. But the 3 movies, well, and I watched The Witcher, which I enjoyed. So I guess 4 things I'll say.
Yeah.
Did you see The Witcher series?
No.
So I feel like The Witcher series comes from this weird dimension where it's trying to appeal to fans of the game, but it's actually appealing to people who read the book. Because after watching
it's adapted from the book.
Right. Well, so is the game. So are the games.
No, the games are sequels.
Ah. Okay.
Well, they're sort of sequels, but are kind of also their own thing.
Well, I'm sure. Yeah, because like in the games, I haven't played Witcher 2, while I don't remember what the subtitle is, and Witcher 3,
Assassin of King,
which is such a badass name.
It's such a cool subtitle.
But like having never read the books, after watching the show, I do want to go in and read the books because like Geralt is just so like. He just takes such the moral high ground and is like Superman type do-gooder G golly with a tragic past in like the most grim dark world we've ever invented, which is just, it's a great contrast to me. I'm like, okay, cool. I like having this like guy who's got like a very strong moral center. You know, he's lived so many lives that if he doesn't have to kill something, he won't. Hey, that's interesting. That's way different than like the comic books I read when I was a kid and that came out in the 80s where they're like, I'm gonna kill you just because I can. Like, I like that. I like the fact that it's like this morally just guy in a world filled with people who don't act morally.
But yeah, I think so the Witcher books, it's like there's a bunch of short stories that serve as sort of a prologue to the novels, and then the Witcher games take place after the last novel.
Okay. I just remember the first Witcher game. Like, I've tried playing the first Witcher game, and it looked just like Baldur's Gate, and I was just like, nope, I'm done. I'm good. Maybe I should have just broken out a strategy guide.
Me too.
The other thing, here's my history with the Witcher games. The second game, I started playing the tutorial level. They're like, use a potion, so I went into the pause menu and used my potion, but apparently I used it too soon because I went out of the menu, and they're like, use a potion, but I didn't have any other I didn't have any other potions, so I effectively soft locked the game. And that was in the tutorial mission, and I was like, dude, if this happens in the tutorial mission, I don't know if I'm going to be able to survive the rest of the game. So that's my brief history.
CD Projekt Red has come a long way since those days.
Well, The Witcher 2 was actually pretty well received, but It's nothing like The Witcher 3.
It was,
right
but
here.
it was a very different game. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's worth watching because Henry Cavill does a good job. I think everyone does a pretty good job, but he's the standout to me, obviously, because everyone likes him in it. So, but I watched 3 war movies. I watched Saving Private Ryan because I was on a Spielberg kick. I watched 1917 again because I was jonesing for it a couple of days ago and I bought it on Blu-ray and I was like, I want to put this in and watch it again. And I watched Dunkirk. So Da Five Bloods fits like perfectly with my theme. So
Interesting.
yeah, and it's so weird because like, especially with the whole thing, have you heard about Anne Hathaway's come out and she's like, Christopher Nolan doesn't allow chairs on set. Like, have you heard about this?
I know he doesn't allow cell phones on set, but I haven't heard of this chairs thing.
Okay, so the Dunkirk, speaking of behind the scenes, the Dunkirk behind the scenes are hilarious because you see, like, they're like, oh yeah, Chris loves getting in the middle of it and, like, really living it, and he doesn't want anyone to do something he wouldn't do. And so, like, they show, like, Christopher Nolan in these, like, wetsuits as they're shooting on the water in the middle of the ocean. He's, like, swimming around with, like, a camera and stuff.
Wow.
And so, like, it's funny because I know a lot of the special effects people on the Inception behind the scenes were like, well, it's a Christopher Nolan film. And, you know, if it's a Christopher Nolan film, we got to do it, you know, we got to do it this way, but we got to make it safe. But, you know, blah, blah, blah. You know, so, like, there's this level of, like, Christopher Nolan, I think he tries to push the envelope at what he could do and what he's allowed to do, and people just kind of like throw their hands up and give it to him without much pushback because he's like scouting all of these beaches and he's like, well, we figured the only beach that we could actually shoot on for the Dunkirk thing is the actual beach at Dunkirk. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what the level? But like, all 3 of those movies are really good. It's funny watching Saving Private Ryan because, like, I love deep focus cinematography and, like, you know, the Citizen Kane stuff, which makes me want to go back and watch older movies because I love that. There's the scene in Saving Private Ryan after spoilers, after Giovanni Ribisi is killed, and which is
What? He died?
Spoilers.
I forgot he was in that movie.
Oh, he's so good. He's so good in that
I also
movie.
forget, like, Vin Diesel's in that movie.
Yeah, he's not that good in it. Like, Caparzo dies and it's supposed to be this emotional moment and I'm just kind of like, good, man, get this fucking guy out of here, dude. He's just going to compromise this. I don't even know why Caparzo was on the mission to begin with. It's like, get your pick of the litter. Like, really? Caparzo? Who adds nothing to the movie? But, like they've decided not to shoot the German soldier and Tom Hanks is walking away and what's his name? Hothead Ken Burns starts, like, shouting at someone. And there's just this great shot of, like, Tom Hanks, like, getting his gear together in the foreground. And Tom Sizemore and Ed Burns, not Ken Burns. Funny if Ken Burns was in that movie, but, like, Ken Burns and Tom Sizemore are, like, arguing in the background, and it's just like, you don't see this kind of staging in movies anymore. And, like, that was kind of confirmed when I was watching 1917, which is a movie all about staging everything to make sure it's one take. It's very, very sparingly did they ever have things taking place on multiple planes in the field. And it's even more pronounced in Dunkirk because I think, like, a lot of the time Christopher Nolan uses editing in order to create the space instead of just having it develop in camera, which again is like, it's kind of like an asshole thing for me to say. I feel like on the podcast I beat up on Christopher Nolan's film styles and technique a lot, considering he's one of the most successful and, like, one of the best filmmakers out there. But it's just interesting for me when I watch movies to, like, look at them like that, especially all kind of about similar subject matter, which is World War II, except for 1917, which is World War I, but it might as well be World War II because, you know, the Germans are still
basically
fascists.
the same anyway.
Yeah, they pretty much are. I also rewatched Avatar, which is, I think, gets a bad rap as a movie. Like, I think people have kind of, like, forgotten how amazing some of the movie is, and especially if you watch it on, like, a decently sized screen, because, like, I think the film was shot in 16:9, so it kind of just envelops you in the world, and it's edited very well, and the way that the movie is structured from, like, a screenplay point of view The way that it evolves is just like a textbook definition. Like, I think it's one of the best technical movies I've ever seen.
Yeah.
But of course, it's not good enough to just be a great technical movie if there's like no soul to it. So, which is why no one remembers Avatar. But like, it really is a movie that like you should put it on in film classes to study, because especially like screenplay classes.
It was such a huge deal.
I know, and yet no one talks about it. Like, even 3 years out, very few people kept up conversation with it.
It's because it's kind of forgettable at the end of the day.
Yeah, which is kind of, I maybe that's because it's such like a technical achievement, but like.
But that's it.
But that's it. Like,
it's only a technical achievement.
Yeah, like the narrative or the emotional highs are all very. Like, the extended edition, which is the one I like, because everything really comes full circle in that one. It opens with, like, Sam Worthington, like, all I ever wanted was something to fight. It was, like, like something to fight for.
All I ever wanted was to be a gangster.
Yeah. No, that would have been funny. No, he's like, all I ever wanted was a cause to fight for. And, like, if you've obviously seen the movie and you're like, really, that's his character development? But, like, there's so much more than that to him. There's multiple layers with, like, the I see you. It's like, oh, there's the surface I see you, but I see inside of you, and the connection process.
Isn't that also from Titanic?
I see you?
Yeah.
Probably. I mean, he's copying everything else. He might as well copy himself. Apparently, I don't know if you told me this, but the line, I'm the king of the world, was an ad-lib by Leonardo DiCaprio that James Cameron repurposed for his own glory when he wins Best Director and Best Picture. It's like, oh my god.
Interesting.
Yeah. I don't know. Apparently I've been in a very war movie mode lately. Yeah.
Speaking of war movies and Tom Hanks, you know how he's in that movie, that submarine movie on Apple TV?
Yeah.
Apparently he wrote the script for that.
Ooh.
Yeah. Anytime actors write a script for a movie that they're also starring in, like, that's a huge red flag.
It did wonders for Mel Gibson. And Kenneth Branagh, for that matter.
Kenneth Branagh is his own strange creature.
He is.
But it's just like, I was thinking of... Oh, yeah, I think it was the Red Letter Media guys talking about Star Trek Picard.
Yeah.
And how, the only way they could get Patrick Stewart to come back was to give him a lot of creative control. Mm-hmm. And they think that might be part of the reason why the show's awful, makes no sense. And there's like, Patrick Stewart is basically Space Jesus.
I'm Jean-Luc Picard. I'm a complex character in Star Trek The Next Generation. But in this, I am everything. I am the only thing. I am Messiah. I am perfect. Except that I can't get up a flight of stairs.
Yep. Yeah, my old enemy. Stairs.
There's a reason we had nothing but elevators in the Enterprise, god damn it. I've watched the first episode of Star Trek Picard.
Mm-hmm.
The thing about the Red Letter Media thing is, like, I can understand why they don't like it, because it looks like a carbon copy of everything that was the new Star Trek movies.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like the new Star Trek movies, while I enjoy that, especially I like the last one, I think is the one that I think I like the best as far as moments. They're great, like, action films, but they're not necessarily, like, particularly good Star Trek narratives.
No.
And so it's like you talk a lot about how, like, they always get the wrong lessons from them. It's definitely, they got the wrong lessons from the Star Trek movies for these new Star Trek shows. But man, they threw a ton of money at Star Trek Picard, because that show, like, it looks gorgeous.
Well, it's interesting also how it was pitched as, like, more character driven compared to Star Trek Discovery, and then apparently it's just as, like, mindless shooty explosions as Star Trek Discovery.
Yeah, well, that's because that's what people like.
It's also weird that Michael Chabon was responsible for some of the writing in that show, considering that he's a Pulitzer Prize winning novelist and also UCI alum.
Oh, It's always amazing when, like, because I mean, if you think about it, the guy who wrote Argo and won an Academy Award for it also wrote Batman v Superman and Rise of Skywalker. So
yeah, well, I mean, the guy who directed Syriana directed Doolittle, starring Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doolittle.
yeah,
So
the guy who wrote Traffic and directed Syriana. I know it's Steve. Yeah,
good and evil exists within us all.
Which is a great segue for Da Five Bloods, a Spike Lee joint. Well, I actually took notes. From a couple podcasts ago, you were like, "I'm surprised you don't take notes, Matt." I was like, "You know what? I'm going to take notes today." So
you strike me as the note-taking type.
well, I had a lot of things that I noticed but couldn't put properly into words. So, I guess let's start with, where do you stand as far as Spike Lee goes? Like, would you call yourself a fan? Would you think he's an intriguing filmmaker? Is he kind of like, is he kind of that filmmaker who, no matter what he does, you find that it's at least worth some sort of like cursory glance because he's always interesting? Like, where do you stand with Spike Lee?
I mean, I haven't seen enough of his movies to have a definitive opinion.
Okay, which ones have you seen?
I've seen Malcolm X, Da Five Bloods. I've seen a good chunk of Jungle Fever, and I'm trying to think what else.
Do the Right Thing?
I have not seen Do the Right
haven't
Thing.
either. I
I've
feel
not
horrible.
seen She's Gotta Have It, or
I've seen She's Gotta Have It. Did you see Inside Man?
no. Like I said, there's a lot of his movies I have not seen.
Did you see Black Klansman?
I've seen bits of Black Klansman, but everything I've seen that he's done has all been very interesting, and it's never been boring. I kind of like how, at least in what I've seen, his style is very all over the place and hyper energetic, but it's not all over the place in a bad way. It's like he mimes like a bunch of different styles and uses a bunch of different techniques and then deploys them sort of selectively depending on what the scene is. And then it kind of creates this weird like mosaic of stuff.
Right.
Like Malcolm X has documentary sections. It has sections that are like really corny and stylized. Like there's like Spike Lee shows up in Malcolm X as one of Malcolm's friends, like very early in the movie. And there's a scene where they're like dressed up for a night on the town, and they're wearing like the most ridiculous looking like pimp suits. And they're like walking like they're in some cornball like 1930s musical. And it's so weird for a movie that's like so serious. But I've always admired the way he mixes things up like that. And I was reading a review of Da Five Bloods that said, it's very long, over 2.5 hours, but none of that time is wasted. It moves along at a brisk pace and it's very energetic. And I would disagree with the fact that none of the time is wasted. I think it is too long.
Yeah,
but I do agree that I think it's easy to be tricked into not realizing it's too long because it is so energetic and so fast-paced. And that I do appreciate that about his stuff.
I come at it from kind of a weird angle with Spike Lee because, like, yes, I feel like he's the kind of filmmaker who his movies are either amazing or they're a train wreck. And I don't think there's any middle ground.
That's kind of how it seems to go.
Let's just let's just look at the 2010 to 2020. All right, he had Red Hook Summer, which was not seen as great. He had Old Boy, which was horrible. He had The Sweet Blood of Jesus, which I have no idea. Chirac, and then he had Black Klansman, which won him his first Academy Award, which was long overdue. And he had Da Five Bloods. In addition to making like amazing movies, like She's Gotta Have It is pretty amazing. Do the Right Thing is very, very highly regarded. Malcolm X, which a lot of people were nervous about. And then he's got Game, which is like really a crazy movie. 25th Hour. And then he's got like She Hate Me, like Miracle at St. Anna. Like he's got these weird, it's such a weird roller coaster of quality to me. Mm-hmm. But he's always interesting because like even in his horrible movies, the problem is that like his style clashes too much in some regards with it.
I can see
Or
that
they don't-
because like
yeah.
if he tried to make a very kind of somber, serious, prestige-y type movie, like obvious Oscar bait, his style and the subject matter would just butt heads constantly, and
Yeah.
you could never get away from that.
Yeah. I mean, you can see it just in his editing alone. It's like most people, when they edit a movie, try to think about continuity in some regard. He doesn't give two shits about how
No,
how the
not
continuity
at all.
works, which I actually like. I love. It's like he takes what Scorsese does with editing, and he's even rougher around the edges. I don't know if it's just like an NYU thing, but like he and Scorsese have very
Maybe.
similar how they choke out moment to moment edits.
Yeah, he definitely gives himself like an extra degree of freedom that even Scorsese like wouldn't do.
I agree. Like there's and again, we're talking about like you were talking about mixing documentary footage. I was amazed at how well. Okay, there's a lot of weird things about Da 5 Bloods. let's just start there. Like there's a lot of strange choices, but like one of the things that I liked a lot was how he was able to put it in context using the documentary footage. I think helped a lot. So, is there anything you would like to address, or can I address some of the strange things that I saw in this movie first?
Just go ahead, man.
Okay. To me, the weirdest thing was when they would go into the Vietnam flashbacks, and it's like young Chadwick Boseman with
Yes, and everyone else is old.
and they're
Although you know what's weird is Chadwick Boseman's like 45.
I know he's not even that young.
He's old. He's an old man, but he looks crazy young.
I know.
Because he has amazing genetics, I guess. I don't know.
I like Chadwick Boseman. Like I've never seen him bad in anything. He has never been bad in anything I've seen, but things I have seen that he's been in have been bad. But
Yeah.
he
It's weird how he was supposed to play Jackie Robinson and then just does not resemble Jackie Robinson in any way. But
the question though, Harrison Ford movie. The question though is, did you buy him as Jackie Robinson?
kind of.
And then as
I bought him as the character he was written as,
Right.
but not as Jackie Robinson.
but like
Because I think he was playing like the platonic World of Forms version of Jackie Robinson, like the
Let's
like the
strip away all of
philosophical
the bad
ideal of Jackie
things.
Robinson, that the actual Jackie Robinson is actually really disappointing if you try to compare the two.
the world of form. Yeah, the idealistic, like the ultimate man version. And he was in Draft
Have
Day.
you ever seen a clip of Jackie Robinson speak?
No, is it?
Oh, don't.
I won't. I'll stick to Muhammad Ali because I started watching Will Smith as Muhammad Ali, and then they have that moment where he's like, I'm not gonna go to Vietnam and kill people for the rights of, like to bring the American glory here when my own people don't even have the American glory. And then they put that in Da 5 Bloods, and I was like, nice, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Like Will Smith is playing a caricature of Muhammad Ali in that movie.
Well, no, the problem with Jackie Robinson is Muhammad Ali, he sounds like Muhammad Ali.
Yeah. But he's
Jackie
also-
Robinson, when you see Jackie Robinson play on TV or read books about him or whatever, you imagine he sounds like Chadwick Boseman.
Yeah.
And then you see clips of him speak,
And he
sounds like Steve Urkel. It's the most... It may be the single most shocking thing I have ever seen is hearing Jackie Robinson's voice, watching him give a speech on TV. Because it was like a press conference after, I think it was after the Dodgers got eliminated in the World Series, because they had multiple World Series against the Yankees when Robinson was with them.
Yeah.
And he's like, or no. I think it's like they won the National League pennant, something like that. And he's like, yes, I'm very much looking forward to facing off against the New York Yankees again. I know we have something of a rivalry with them, it seems. But I would be very happy if we can bring the World Series trophy back to Brooklyn and back to the fans who've supported us all this way. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, that's how he talks?
When you're expecting Keith David and instead you get Steve Urkel. Oh my God, that was perfect. Oh, Jesus. Fuck. Oh, man. But yeah, going back to the Five Bloods. I feel like no other filmmaker could get away with putting, like, you know, old Delroy Lindo and his you know, compatriots of the same age in with...
And all those old dudes from The Wire.
Is that where they're all from?
Pretty much.
I thought one of them might have been from She's Gotta Have It, like Spike Lee's getting old, he's getting old, let's go one last ride together.
I'm sure one of them is. I mean, Otis was Detective Freeman in The Wire, who I didn't recognize him because he's aged so dramatically in the last, like, 4 years. Because he was also in John Wick, the first one.
Was he? Who did he... Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then the guy who plays the evil senator, I think, in The Wire, who's always like, shit. That guy is in The Five Bloods. And then the dude who looks like Brian Gumble is not in The Wire, but he's like a acclaimed theater actor, I think.
I couldn't think of anyone else who would be bold enough to do that, because like they do kind of look kind of goofy, these old guys, like not really physically appropriately shooting these guns.
These old out of shape dudes running around in, like, you know, Technicolor grainy Vietnam with
4x3
Chadwick Boseman, who's 45 and not that much younger than they are, but looks like he's, you know, 30.
Yeah. Maybe because he's 45, it helps bridge the... Because, like, I mean, I bought into it. Like, I understood why he did it. But it was one of one of the wildest choices I could have ever imagined. And I feel like it's something only he could do. Like, him and maybe, like, Wes Anderson. But Spike Lee is doing it for, like, legitimate reasons. And Wes Anderson would do it for, like, a goofy laugh. Like,
Quentin Tarantino could get away with it.
I think he could too, but I
feel like that would fit his sense of humor.
Maybe. I think now he would. I think now he would try it. He's like, oh shit, Spike Lee did it. Oh, I guess all the rules are broken now.
I know. Well, remember when he shows up as an Australian in Django Unchained, and it's the most bizarre,
oh, he just got my
calling
sights
attention
changed
to itself thing?
Yeah.
Yeah,
but I mean, even then, like, I feel like if he did like a flashback, it would be like those old commercials that made fun of flashbacks with actor portrayals, where the guy's like this old, like, you know, decrepit looking guy, and he's like, I remember back in my day, and it goes to like an actor rehearsal, and it's like clearly a completely different person in the actor past.
It'll
like,
be Bruce Dern having a flashback. You're like, back in my day, and then the flashback, it's still just Bruce Dern.
No. I feel like Tarantino would do something where it's like, back in my day, Bruce Dern, and it goes into the past, and it's like freaking like Dan Stevens or like Joe Jonas or something, like some really good looking guy who's doing it. I don't know. I feel like you'd do something like over the top like that. But again, I don't think he would, because I feel like there's a reason that Spike Lee did it, aside from the fact that he probably couldn't afford to buy younger actors.
I was gonna say, I think the reason was money.
Apparently, this is one of his most expensive films at $35 million.
Yeah, I think
so. They didn't have money for.
I think it was money. He spent all the money on the helicopters and the explosions. He didn't have enough left for younger actors.
What else is kind of tragic is like I didn't do too much research into it, but like there were a lot of bullet hits and a lot of gunfire that looked like it was digital, and like if they spent a ton of money on
dude, the digital blood in this movie drove me crazy. It looked so bad.
Which is bad because like there's that scene in the beginning, the documentary footage of like the guy shooting the Vietnam kid in the beginning, and it's like actual documentary footage, and I'm like,
it's like visceral.
Did I just watch a snuff film as like the blood squirting out of his head?
Yeah,
and then, like,
you literally watch a murder, like a real life murder.
Oh my god, I was a little unnerved. And then later on in the film, that one guy gets blown up. like it's almost like Tropic Thunder. Blood's like splurting
I
out of his
know.
arms.
It's
like,
so weird because there's like wartime photographs and documentary footage of like real life death and destruction that's horrifying, and then the death and destruction in the movie is like comical because it's all low budget CGI.
So I'm like sitting there. I'm like, dude, where did the money go to in this fucking movie?
Dude, it was probably licensing rights for the documentary footage.
For that and like the entire Marvin Gaye catalog. Like he has his own credit in the movie. It's like music performed by Marvin Gaye. I'm like, okay, so this movie's about a couple of things. It's about the Vietnam War. It's about black people. It's about redemption for accidental deaths, and it's about Marvin Gaye. We're really going to push the Marvin Gaye.
You know, I wonder if Spike Lee just has a thing with Marvin Gaye because in Jungle Fever, Samuel L. Jackson is murdered by his own father the same way Marvin Gaye was.
Oh. He might. Like, I was actually blown away that they had Marvin Gaye singing the song with no backing track. Like, I thought that was, like, an amazing moment. Which was then followed by another amazing moment that I'll talk about in a second. But yeah, I just wanted to point out that I felt like it was very... Also, I really hated the original soundtrack to this movie. I really hated the background music. Like anything that wasn't...
I don't remember the background music.
Oh my god, it sounded so self-important and self-entitled. It was like this epic violin drum score with like... And I was like... And it would be in these scenes of like the Five Bloods just like going around and looking goofy as they're firing their weapons. But it was also in scenes of
I think...
them like doing things that you would require a different song. You'd require like a somber song, but instead it's like this epic haunting score. I was like, what the fuck are you guys doing?
I have a theory that the Vietnam War sections of the movie are intentionally meant to be kind of corny.
Really?
Yeah, like with the washed out colors and the grainy, film grain digitally pasted on and the like weirdly epic music that's so epic it feels almost out of place given how janky the combat sequences actually are and how geographically incoherent they are. It's like I was watching some of the shootouts and I could just imagine like Rossitron having an aneurysm watching this because he's always like geography.
Yeah, or Patrick Willems looking at it and saying this. Yeah. But the thing is, like, there are other movies out there, and again, like, watched a lot of war movies, like action movies and war movies. There are other people who have done this sort of like disorienting, I don't care about geography gunfire, but it doesn't work in the scenes where they're.
But it's like
it doesn't work at the ending temple scene either.
Yeah, but I think it's like the shootouts are so, especially in the flashbacks, are so not important to anything that's going on.
Yeah.
Or like any of the themes of the story. That I think they're kind of done in this like ironic sort of way where it's like these old dudes and their memories of it, not necessarily how it actually happened.
Right, which is why they're all old, which is the narrative purpose of it, which is why I was like, okay, this is why. And again, if it's anyone else except for like Spike Lee doing it, I don't think it works at all. I think you look at it and you're like, what the fuck is wrong with you? But
exactly, and I think because it's supposed to be kind of like this, golden memory for these guys, that is also why it looks kind of janky.
We don't really I kind of make fun of a lot of like the big directors who do a movie on Netflix and it just feels like their worst work. I don't think that's the case here. No. But I do also think that it was very few of the directors who actually get to make a movie for Netflix don't take advantage of the fact that everyone's going to be watching it on a screen that's 16:9. And I like the fact that Spike Lee did in a way that like I think one other movie I've seen on Netflix has, and like that Spike Lee draws a lot of attention to it. So I thought the variable frame size of the movie also a very Spike Lee-y type thing. Because he's a guy who likes to play around in a different sort of way with film as a medium. He's much more overt about doing it, whereas like Christopher Nolan is more like introspective about it. Spike Lee is like, I'm gonna bash it over your head, which is the same thing with his own politics in the movie as well.
Oh yeah, I mean the movie is all his movies are pretty political, and this is ultra super duper political.
Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, it works just because all of the political stuff is ingrained in the film well enough that it doesn't stick out in any sort of weird way.
Yeah. Like, I think it's important to reference that this was written already, and then Spike Lee and one of his writing partners, the guy who he worked with on Black Klansman, went in and rewrote the movie. And I think it was originally intent, and this is another reason maybe it's bad that I like this, but this is one of those things about Spike Lee that I like. I feel like the original cut of this movie, and like even looking at a little bit of like the production history, I think that it was originally supposed to be, it was going to be directed by Oliver Stone, and I think it was about a bunch of like white Vietnam vets going back and trying to like get treasure. It's like Uncharted, but a bunch of Sullys, and I'm guessing it was all very like surface level. It would be about, you know, people and specifically the Vietnam War. Oliver Stone was going to direct it. And then the script goes into turnaround. No one does anything. And Spike Lee gets his hands on it. And he's like, oh, well, guess what? I can make a parallel. Like, I'm going to change all of the major players to be black because I'm black and I like to tell stories like that. Like, I think it's the same with Inside Man. I think he might have made it so that Denzel Washington becomes the main character. And casts him instead of like some other white detective. So I'm going to make him black, and then I'm going to connect all of the stuff about racism that was happening around the Vietnam War time then, see it as a parallel that's happening now. And I'm going to take a movie that on the surface probably wasn't going to be, like, it was going to be deep for like Vietnam vets and a reflection of Vietnam, but now I'm encompassing the Vietnam conflict, Black Lives Matter, the civil rights movement, like, you know, the death of Martin Luther King Jr., and like how much things have changed and how much things have not changed, and sort of like this culture of like America not taking responsibility for anything.
Yeah.
And like,
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
Changing all the main characters to be black, I think, creates kind of it creates a very interesting dynamic that otherwise wouldn't be there, because a lot of
Yes, I agree.
Vietnam War movies are about it's just like war sucks, the Vietnam War was misguided and awful, and people on both sides of the conflict just suffered immeasurably and got nothing. But this is all of that, and then it's also just like, you know, because this was going on during the civil rights era and everything for black soldiers, it's like, not only is all that stuff still true that's true in the other Vietnam War movies, but there's also like nothing at home for them either.
Yeah.
And it's also kind of that weird like, you know, you're fighting a war for a government that is actively passing laws to make your life at home hell. So there's this weird sort of like, you're patriotic the second you leave your country, and then you're like, fuck this place the second you get back. And kind of, how do you negotiate that? How do you make moral decisions and lead a just life when you're a soldier in a war fighting on behalf of a country that hates you and is actively trying to get you killed? All of that, I think, is a really interesting framing for this story that you don't really ever get to see.
I agree.
Because it's so much more complicated than kind of the standard war is hell type movie that we're so used to.
Yeah. And I think that's, you know, that's something that Spike Lee brings to even movies where it's like, it's not a great movie, like something that he's kind of just comes in as the director for, like Old Boy, or like I said, Inside Man. He's able to, just by tweaking a couple of things here and there, he's able to bring out this other narrative that you haven't seen before. And like, I think in this movie, like, it completely changes how you see the movie. Because I think if you have like Don Johnson going in with like his, you know, Buckaroo Valves or whatever, like, you're going to be like, oh, so this is like, you know, a shitty, I don't know. It's like a shitty comedy, but like in Vietnam where they're hunting for treasure. But instead it's like, he's able to kind of,
this is the worst Platoon sequel ever.
Man, I think it'd be a sequel to Born on the 4th of July at that point. To complete Oliver Stone's Vietnam War sucked trilogy or whatever. What did you think about the cast?
I mean, I like the cast in general. I think, you know, all of the principal actors, they're kind of they're all like TV actors and kind of bit players for the most part. So it's just you don't come in with any preconceived notions about them, which is always a good thing, I think.
Well, except for Delroy Lindo, right? Or am I the only person here who's like, yeah, I know Delroy Lindo's name off the top of my head?
I mean, I know who he is because Delroy Lindo is a hard name to forget, but I haven't seen a whole lot of stuff with him in it. Like like he's in Malcolm X, obviously. He plays Archie, but I mean, I'm trying to think like.
He's in Heist.
Like he's in the Cider House Rules. I remember him in that.
Yeah. Yep.
But he's not
like,
in a ton of things. He's just very recognizable.
He's very recognizable. I feel like he also takes really tough roles because, like in Cider House Rules, that wasn't exactly like in anyone's comfort zone.
No, it was very uncomfortable.
And even in this, I'm like I feel like I like Delroy Lindo as an actor, but I never like the characters he plays. So do I actually like him as an actor? Like, do I like him?
Well, he played. I mean, because his characters are always very unsympathetic. I mean, Archie is very cruel and ruthless, and his character in Cider House Rules is just gross. Like, and it's weird how he's really good at playing people who are very like calm and laid back and seem kind of friendly, who then suddenly just become unhinged.
Yeah.
Like in the Cider House Rules, like he's really friendly and welcoming to
constantly crying Tobey Maguire.
To Spider-Man. And then as soon as like they find out what he's up to, like he's got like he gets that like crazy look in his eyes where he's like he becomes a completely different person.
He has that moment in this movie.
Exactly.
He does it going into that mode and coming out of that mode.
Yeah, he transitions between both states continually in The Five Bloods.
Like, as an aside, him at the Trump rally, I thought was the funniest thing.
Which I kept thinking, like, was he digitally inserted, or did they just kind of like, did they find a clip of a guy that looked kind of like him from far away?
I don't know. I want to say that they digitally inserted him there, but I think it's funny that they blocked out his eyes. So that you definitely knew he wasn't there. And the fact that he was wearing a Make America Great Again hat throughout the whole movie. That hat is cursed. It's like everyone who wore it died.
That's true.
I thought that was funny. That was a very Spike Lee touch.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like it's not easy to sympathize with him in this movie, obviously.
No, I mean, politics aside, just because he's so openly hostile to everybody and is belligerent, you know?
Yeah, well, he's like the definition of like the whole idea of like, well, to me, they have that study that like the majority of suicides are, 40-year-old men who are in like office job or like corporate office jobs or corporate level, higher level, who like are just pressurized and they have no outlets to turn to. And like he's literally the definition of that. He's like, nope, I can take care of all of my problems on my own. I don't need help from anyone to take him down. Obviously that doesn't end up being the case. I think it's the fact that of what happened in the past that's kind of closed him off, or at least that's the Aaron Sorkin 5-second, postmodern psychology moment.
I think it's a lot of things. I mean, it's the fact that he accidentally, spoilers, The Five Bloods. It's that he accidentally killed Chadwick Boseman in a gunfight. So there's guilt for that.
So
I think there's like general just trauma from the war, general kind of trauma from living life.
Well, and his wife in childbirth.
Yeah, and his wife died in childbirth, so he always like blamed his son for that.
We didn't know how to properly cope.
Yeah. So I think it's just, and it's all of these things, and then being, Mr. like the stereotypical. I know we're talking about Americans here, but the stereotypical like Japanese salaryman with no outlet who commits suicide at age 45.
Yeah.
And then gets filmed by Logan Paul.
Gross. Another gross thing. It's like Man, Delroy Lindo's gonna play Logan Paul in a biopic next.
Wait, did you just say Delroy Lindo is gonna play Logan Paul in a biopic?
Yes, sir.
Because that would be the greatest thing in the history of things.
I know. As it was coming out of my mouth, I was like, "This is gonna be amazing." And it's gonna be like in the past sequences here where they're not gonna put any makeup on him to make him look younger.
No, it's just gonna be Delroy Lindo.
It's just gonna be Delroy Lindo. They don't even bother like trying to put on whiteface or anything. It's just Delroy Lindo as Logan Paul.
Dude, what they should do is have
character.
like it should be Delroy Lindo as Logan Paul, and then fucking like Jay Baruchel or however the fuck you say his name as Jake. And you just have to buy it that they're brothers.
I mean, shit. James Franco and Dave Franco wanted me to believe that they were not brothers in a movie and had weird sexual chemistry, which is odd.
Dude, the Franco brothers are odd. For all kinds of reasons.
I'll say James Franco's odd. I don't. Dave Franco strikes me as a little bit more normal.
A little more normal.
A little more. Well, a lot more. James Franco's a weird guy.
Yeah,
like a very weird guy.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's. Have you seen If Beale Street Could Talk?
No, but it's on Hulu, so it's on the list.
Okay, that's a great movie. Dave Franco has basically a glorified cameo, but it's a very long glorified cameo. And
he's done a lot of those. He had a glorified cameo in Six Underground before he died.
Huh.
Spoilers.
Who cares? Anyway, his glorified cameo in If Beale Street Could Talk is really good. And I'm like, wow, who the hell knew this guy could actually act?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You've never... Oh, no, I think he's good. I think he's weird.
I think he plays like the same giggly weirdo and everything.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. Gee, thanks, 21 Jump Street and Scrubs Season 9 that he was in.
Is that the season where they get rid of the entire cast and replace them with new people and it was a colossal failure?
Yeah. It's the season that doesn't exist on television, but
sense.
had quite a lot of good actors on it.
It's like the last season of that 70s show where they replace a bunch of people and everyone's like, this is terrible.
Yeah. As it slowly declines into death.
Yeah.
Because Topher Grace would go on to star in BlacKkKlansman.
Well, the whole reason that 70s show had that awful final season was because Topher Grace was too busy being Venom.
Yeah. I thought it was before Venom, but I remember there was a moment where like Ashton Kutcher was like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna leave now," and then like he came back for like a 3-episode arc, and like he was like, "Hey guys, it's like nothing has changed," and all the actors are looking at him like, "Fuck you, you're a special guest star and get paid more money.
Yep.
You should go fuck yourself."
Well, I mean,
and then he ended up marrying Mila Kunis, which I don't understand. And
to be fair, it's like the only decent people on that show seemingly were like non-regulars. Ashton Kutcher, say what you will about his acting ability, seems like a decent dude. Mila Kunis seems like a decent person.
Really?
Topher Grace, seems
Mila
decent.
Kunis,
Laura Prepon is like some psycho-Scientologist. And then Danny Masterson is a serial rapist and a psycho-Scientologist. So I'm okay with them not getting paid a whole lot.
Yeah. God, 3 Degrees of Giovanni Ribisi. I know that the mom in that 70s show was also Giovanni Ribisi's wife in Friends. And then she never appeared again after that 70s show started because she had a regular job. Oh, man. It was fun seeing Jean Reno in another movie.
I know. Remember when Jean Reno was like a cool, like foreign action star where you're like, whoa, he's like fucking, I don't know.
Yeah, he's
like Sylvester Stallone, but European. So he's somehow cooler.
He's more sophisticated because he sounds French. It's like
exactly.
They fucked up with Gerard Depardieu. They were gonna get it right with Jean Reno, and now Jean Reno looks like Gerard Depardieu.
I know Jean Reno looks terrible, and he just totally phones it in. But I remember the '90s when Jean Reno was so cool, and you're like, wow, he's like this awesome action hero who's somehow more sophisticated just because he's French and for no other reason.
Yep. I know the movie that did him in, The Da Vinci Code.
Oh, not Mission Impossible 1?
No, Mission Impossible, because he's still, after Mission Impossible 1, he was in Ronin. Yeah.
I didn't realize Ronin was after.
Yeah, I think Ronin was 99. Okay, I could be wrong. Let me check.
But yeah,
because
he's in Ronin, and he's great and super cool. He's obviously the professional, Leon, which is great and super cool.
He was in Onimusha 3.
No comment.
Sorry, weird video game tangent. But yeah, Ronin came afterwards, so he still had some good faith.
God, we need to throw Ronin under the wheels because that movie's amazing.
Yeah, we should. I'm very much down to do that. I've been kind of jonesing for a rewatch anyway, because the movie always has, like, every time I watch it, there's more that I remember happens, because I always forget that the last scene takes place in an ice skating rink.
Yeah.
And then I'll rewatch it and I'll be like, oh yeah, that's right, that's what happened. Or like, I was always like, what's the point? Like, I understand why they call it Ronin, and then they have that one scene with the guy who's like paints miniatures of all of the figures, and he like explicitly states, yep. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh yeah, because they have to have a self-surgery scene, because it's freaking, it's an action movie in the 90s.
Hell yeah.
So they had to have a self-surgery scene, which are always awesome.
I remember my family and I, we always quote the, like, what is lesson number 2? I don't remember.
Oh man, David Mamet's crazy, but man, he writes some good fucking dialogue.
Oh yeah.
Oh god, he was in because I'm just looking at this, and he was like, how far has he fallen? Well, he was in the Pink Panther 2 with Steve Martin. So I feel bad saying that.
He's in the Pink Panther 1 with Steve Martin.
Yeah,
he plays his sidekick. He plays Steve Martin's sidekick in the Pink Panther remakes. If you ever want something to feel bad about,
I mean, there's like this one Steve Martin movie where I think I was watching like Cheaper by the Dozen or something. Like, it was on. I wasn't watching it. I was making food and someone had it on, and I looked over, and like they had this moment where the camera like pushes in on Steve Martin as he's giving his like sentimental Steve Martin patented smile. And I was like, this is just such a I remember when that used to be a legitimate thing, but it's just such a manufactured, like, we're going to make you feel sympathetic and feel good, and like, and we're going to swell the music at this point. And I was like, you know what? I feel bad. Mm-hmm. It just made me feel bad. I was like, it's so easy to manipulate these things in such a stale way. Like there was that one, I think it was like a Nerd Writer video where Kevin Hart he's in like the wedding wrangler or whatever, and like Josh Gad gets out of his car, and Kevin Hart turns to him and he's like, hey man, this is not always going to be like this. It's just a job, and Josh Gad's like, yep, I know. It's just a job. This friendship that we're forming is totally fake, and it's not real at all. And the Nerd Writer was like, this does not happen in real life. No one goes around saying things like this, but we've seen it in movie after movie after movie, to the point where like it's a cliche of something that's never really happened. It's just so fake and fabricated. And I was like, oh, that's so depressing.
Hey, Baxter, buddy boy, are you sick? I can tell you're sick because of all the tissues in your pocket and because you're constantly sneezing. Yeah, you're definitely sick, all right. Just like that lazy explaining to the audience what is going on through dialogue. That obviously the apartment doesn't do, but I remember you mentioning something like, what if it did?
If it were a modern comedy, and
if it were a modern comedy, if it was like some shitty Will Ferrell movie where we would have that exact type of dialogue.
This all got started because we were talking about how far Jean Reno has fallen.
Yes, he's fallen so far that it made you talk about Josh Gad and Kevin Hart.
A Josh Gad and Kevin Hart movie that no one saw.
I didn't even know one existed, but I'm not surprised. It's kind of like how there's a whole genre of movies that's like, The Rock is really big and Kevin Hart is really small. Isn't that funny? And that's the movie.
And you'd think it's like, oh, it's only one, right? No, it's like 5.
It's a genre
like
unto itself. It's like Cowboy Bebop, you know.
It's like Cowboy Bebop if like we were in Earth 2.
I just remember seeing like those like those French New Wave title cards in Cowboy Bebop, where it's like the work which will be a genre unto itself shall be called Cowboy Bebop, comma, and then like it repeats over and over again. And then I just think like the work which shall be a new genre unto itself shall be called The Rock Big, Kevin Hart Small, comma, the work which just repeats over
now. But instead of like cool stylized like Art Nouveau or art, you know, it's just like the most generic like words. It's like white words, black background. It's not even in like Times New Roman. They didn't have the decency to do that. It's in like
followed up by an endless
like,
series
Arial.
of flat 2 shots and boring shot, reverse shot.
Yeah, we're lucky if we get a flat shot. And then like things that pass for action, where it's just like people who look like these actors. It's like, isn't it funny that The Rock is big and Kevin Hart is small, and then in the action scene they're the same size? Oh man, we've gotten way off topic.
I know. Okay, I don't like The Rock. I'm just gonna put that out there. I don't like The Rock. I find all his performances annoying. I find all his characters annoying. I think he's like one of those people who's more concerned about his brand than about what he's doing. So it's like whatever movie he's in has to conform to the Rock brand, even when it absolutely should not, which I find just immensely irritating. And also, from what I've heard, that you know, there's a lot of set drama on those Fast and Furious movies.
Yeah.
Apparently, a big part of that is The Rock is an egomaniac.
Oh, really? I always thought it was on Vin Diesel's side, but I mean, hey, The Rock has the best spin people ever.
Oh, absolutely.
He has to.
Well, The Rock is Mr. Nice Guy on camera, but you know, behind the scenes, apparently he wants to be the star of the show, and Vin Diesel's like, "What are you talking about? Like, I'm Dominic Toretto."
Not only that, but he's like, "Dude, we're family."
Yeah. Anyway, it's basically like Vin Diesel is the star of an entire series of movies, so he justifiably has a big ego when he's on the set of those movies. And then The Rock has a big ego anyway, so he just shows up and expects to be the star.
Yeah. I mean, the argument...
Allegedly.
Well, so the argument could be made, and I forgot what I was watching. I think it was a Patrick Williams video. I know that one of my friends who was a big fan of the Fast and the Furious movies, he was like, the movies completely changed with 5 when The Rock got there. But one of the reasons... Well, like, to him...
But they got better.
They got
Until they didn't. They got better until they suddenly got worse.
They got better, and then Paul Walker died.
Yeah, pretty much
is what I've heard. Well, you know, they went away from Justin Lin, and you know, Paul Walker passed away, and then The Rock and Ego and stuff. But like in 5, apparently he plays a very not brand Rock.
Oh yeah,
character.
He's completely off brand, and it works great.
And that's why it's great. But then, you know, like you said, it's in service of the movie. Again, I haven't seen Fast 5 or 6 or
I think Fast
7.
5 is probably my favorite of the series.
Fast and the Furious 2 is just so weird. It's such a strange outlier. It's like...
Yeah.
Wait,
are you talking about Too Fast, Too Furious?
Yeah. It has Paul Walker in it, and Tyrese continues to show up. But
and
like
Ludacris.
aside from... And Ludacris... Well, yeah, you know, my bad, dude, because... Honestly, dude, Ludacris is the best, but...
I know. You know what's weird? In Fast and Furious 1, I think there's a house party in the first Fast and Furious where it's playing that Ludacris song. It's called, I think it's like I Got Hose or something.
Yeah.
And then Ludacris shows up in Too Fast, Too Furious.
Too Furious, yeah.
So, who's singing I Got Hose?
Dude, see, this is why they won't give it to us, because if they gave it to me, I'd be like, oh my god, we're going to have the best scene in the series. Like, what's that scene? Ludacris meeting Ludacris.
Ludacris, yes!
Like no, we're not going to do that. That's like, but no, we have to maintain the spatial continuity of the universe. If there's a Ludacris song in the universe, that means that Ludacris can be Ludacris, and it'll be great. And they're like, no, go back to film school, go back to your little hole,
but
go back to your podcast.
What I was going to say is, while I don't particularly care for The Rock as an actor, I do want to make a movie with him one day where he plays a cannibalistic serial killer. and like cast completely against type. I want him to go like, fully commit to the role, very creepy Hannibal Lecter, all that shit. And then like the detective will finally track him down, and he'll be in his house, and there'll be like dead bodies and like human meat everywhere. And then The Rock will say, "Do you smell what The Rock is cooking?"
Some exec is like, "We gave you $60 million for a punchline." They haven't done that before, but do you smell what The Rock?
And it has to be in like
God.
that really. It has to be in character. Like he can't just like say it as The Rock. He has to say it as this serial killer guy, which he's giving like an Oscar-worthy performance to portray.
Yeah. This is his Uncut Gems moment.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just completely
/ Punch Drunk Love moment, or his Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind moment, if you will.
We're gonna call it Undercut Gems because the entire performance is going to be undercut by him saying that line.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
Do you smell what The Rock is cooking?
We're going to cast Ben Affleck as the detective so that everyone remembers.
Oh my God.
Fucking Batman v Superman when he's like, "Do you bleed?" And Ben Affleck's just going to look at him in his like hungover state as The Rock raises his eyebrow.
Dude, seeing Henry Cavill's CGI mouth try to say "Do you bleed?" in a menacing way in Justice League is one of the cringiest things ever committed to film.
I love it because like Henry Cavill's like so all in. Like I totally believe that he was like, "All right, I'm going to come back. I got to play Superman. I got to play him differently than I've been playing him." Yeah, that line's kind of throwaway. And then the whole thing is undercut by his like wiggly jello lip. It's like Star Wars Battlefront 2 lips. And he's like, but like, I feel like Henry Cavill's also the kind of guy who's just like in 5 years, he's going to be like, "Wasn't it funny when they gave me a gelatin lip that wiggled
I know.
all the time?" Like he seems like he'd have a good attitude about it. I mean, he paints miniatures on the side. Like, why wouldn't he have a good attitude?
He paints miniatures just like Detective Freeman in The Wire, whose actor plays Otis in Defy Bloods, which we were supposed to be talking about.
Yes. I want to say one last thing about The Rock, though.
Okay.
I think that it's interesting because he can still sell a movie on his name alone. And there are very few people who can do that. Apparently, like, huge box office returns. They're not even people. It's just that category. But, like, you don't see people out there anymore who can do that, really.
No, but I mean like, but who? Like, who's buying the tickets? You know what I mean? Like, who's The Rock's target demo?
I think he appeals to such a large range of people. That's the only thing I can come up with. Like he's like he has such a broad appeal to a lot of people who are like, "Oh yeah, he's got like the Tom Hanks I'm a nice guy thing." Although apparently Tom Hanks in real life is a nice guy. He's got I'm like a mountain of a man, and I'm in goofy action movies that went out in the 90s. They're always kind of, they've got like that wit about them. And so I guess he looks at a chart about what categories have I not hit, and he adjusts his persona to make sure he hits that one. But like, it's not one of those things where like he's like 100% on everything. It's like, in order to hit that category, everything else goes down by 10%. So that at a certain point, he's just going to be like writing the line, but everyone knows who he is, because that's why it's interesting to me. It's like an old Hollywood star type thing. Not that he's like a good actor Hollywood star, but
he is his persona.
He's like John Wayne. He's like John Wayne. Like, you go to a movie to see John Wayne. You don't care who John Wayne is. You just know that.
Well, it's also John Wayne is playing John Wayne in all those movies.
Yeah.
He's not expected to have range.
No, except Genghis Khan. I don't get it. Okay, I think we mentioned it before too. I want to see that movie just so I can stop just like making obscure references to it. I'll actually know what I'm talking about.
I know. Apparently, John Wayne playing John Wayne as he always does. Nothing's different.
Yeah. No. Like character traits will be different, but it's not. But not that he portrays the characters differently. It's things that people say about him. But otherwise, the Duke is the Duke is the Duke.
Yeah.
Kind of like Delroy Lindo always plays creepy or like very challenging roles.
I know. He does not make life easy for himself as an actor,
No,
I will say.
He doesn't. So I do want. We were talking about bringing it back. One thing that I found fun I guess the word is fun, because I like all of this circularity stuff. You know, that I like the fact that at the end of 1917, Schofield goes to sleep at the end,
which I hate.
I like the fact that in The Five Bloods, like, it's always a group of at least 5 people who are doing these things. So like they go to Vietnam, and like youngish Chadwick Boseman is replaced by Delroy Lindo's son, and you're like, oh hey, cool, they're back at The Five Bloods. And then at the end of the movie, again, spoilers, when there's only one of the Bloods alive, well, there's not, because there's also the son, he's alive. Mm-hmm. There's the guy who played as Richard Jewell, he's alive. The French chick, she's alive. People. Mm-hmm, yeah, the 2 landmine people, and then the Vietnamese translator.
Yeah,
so
they're the
The
new
Five Bloods ends
Bloods.
with The Five Bloods.
That's
they all go
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was a fun touch. I wanted to point that out because like those are things like filmically and narratively that like you're not really supposed to think about and you're not really supposed to notice, but I like it when I see those things. I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool how it all kind of comes together, like maintains the themes of the movie.
It's also just cool how sprawling the movie is and has all these characters that kind of, they show up and then they disappear and then they come back again. And they kind of factor into the plot in very unexpected ways. I mean, just as an adventure movie, it works pretty well because it's got plenty of action, adventure, comedy, and it definitely like keeps the twists and turns coming in ways that you don't necessarily expect, which, you know, is never easy to do.
No, it's not. But yeah, I think that's true because like that's another thing I was thinking about, because like it's kind of like a Vietnam peripheral movie, because like I wouldn't say that this is Apocalypse Now, right? Which is probably the best Vietnam movie ever made. Well, it is. It's the best Vietnam movie ever made. Yes. But like the fact that so much of it uses the Vietnam War as a background into Five Bloods, but it's all about modern people dealing with modern life at the time, and as they're kind of like going through their Julia Roberts vacationing in Vietnam, which obviously, you know, that's not the case. The whole time I was watching it, I was like, this feels a lot like Uncharted. like the whole like they have to do these puzzles, and I thought it was funny that because like they're a bunch of old guys, and it's like when they're looking for the gold with the golden bar. Or with the minesweeper thing, the metal detector. I was like, this is the most like recreational activity looking thing ever, but it's deathly serious. Like they need to find this gold, but like he's in a polo shirt and shorts with like a vacation hat on. They got all their backpacks and stuff, and apparently a never-ending supply of water.
Yep.
I'm not gonna like poke holes in the plot, but like the water thing was definitely an issue for me as I was watching the movie. I was like, where are they getting all of this clean water? And I was glad when David was like, I gotta go take a shit, which he never did. He never took it. I feel bad for him for that. But I was like, I'm pretty sure if you're drinking jungle water, you're gonna get like really bad dysentery, and there's not a lot of toilet paper left on there. But like that aside, like you're right, it is like an adventure movie, and it does keep your interest in a topic that would kind of like, because I don't really love I'm in the jungle and I'm surviving movies.
Yeah.
Apparently I do, because I like Lost City of Zed, and I blame you for this. I feel like you're bringing more and more of these movies to me.
I keep feeding you survival movies, even though I also don't like survival movies.
I think it's Spike Lee's ability to kind of like transcend that this is just like people camping in a jungle.
Oh yeah,
you know,
Spike
there's so much more going on.
Like genre means nothing to Spike Lee, which is a good thing.
Yeah, it's what keeps it fun.
Yeah, well, and he's just gonna do whatever, as long as it's in service of, you know, the story.
Yeah, or his own. That's the other thing, is like a lot of these stylistic elements. My favorite being when Delroy Lindo is directly monologuing to the camera.
I know, forever.
I know. I was like, this is something I want to talk to Gabe about. Unfortunately, it was something I wanted to talk to you about that I wasn't actually listening to what he was saying. I was just like, but that's sometimes what I like about Spike Lee's movies, is like you get the visceral reaction. you get what he's saying. You know, he's like talking about, you know, like, this isn't going to kill me. I'm going to survive the jungle. I survived Vietnam once. I don't need anyone else. I can take care of this thing. But he's doing it with such intensity, which is partly Delroy Lindo, and it's partly just like how unnervingly close the camera is, to the point where it's almost like, am I going to be able to keep it on him the whole time?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the whole thing is like you're in his head, basically.
Yeah.
So it's like they have like this ultra wide lens, and they shove it right in front of his face
and track with him as he's like,
yeah.
I feel bad. I feel
his
so
head
bad
stays
for that
still,
cameraman.
and then the environment moves around it.
It's so good. And again, it doesn't. There's no easy lead into that. It's like sliced in there and thrown in there, which is another thing I love about Spike Lee's editing. He's taking these chances, these weird things that he does, or these. I would say, like, I said weird things. That's the wrong thing to say. He takes very big risks, and he really pushes. He like antes in all the way. He's not like, oh, well, let me lead in naturally to this. Let me shoot a bit of cutaway. No, he's like, one, I'm going to shoot you doing a monologue. You're directly addressing the camera. It's going to be very intimidating. And then I'm going to do it again, but seamlessly lead it into another scene. Like you were talking about, like, there's the scene in the minefield where he goes from like, all right, son, you're my son. You know, blah, blah, blah. You went to this college. What did that guy do? He flew. Blah, 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 blah. And like that scene is like, oh my God, this is super tense. Oh my
Dude,
God.
yeah. His whole monologue about like how he went to like Howard or whatever, with some guy who's like and their famous graduate was like a great sprinter, and he's like, that's what you're gonna do. That's what you're gonna do right now. And I'm like, holy fuck, this is so good. You're gonna fly. Or maybe he was like a hurdle runner. I don't know, but
Yeah, I think. Yeah.
But like, yeah, that the whole the scene where they have to get the son off of the mine is so intense and so well executed, and like all these kind of seemingly meaningless details work their way in, and you're like, holy shit, this is amazing.
But like that's the scene to me where Delroy Lindo goes from like, oh my God, he's so sympathetic. It's like, oh my God, he really does love his son, and that's immediately like he immediately throws water on you as he starts pointing his gun. He's like, nope, these people aren't coming with us. I'm taking control.
And then he takes
like that's.
No. And as soon as he saves his son, he takes all of the landmine people hostage.
Yeah, it's like, God damn it, what the hell? Like it was crazy. Like I thought, like that's, to me, I know I just completely undercut talking about the landmine scene, because I actually wrote that down as something. I was like, the scene in the minefield is just like from the very beginning when the guy's walking backwards. And you're like, someone's going to shoot him, right? And then the mine blows up, and you're like, oh, he's dead. Yeah. And then he starts yelling, and you're like, oh, God.
And he comes over, and he's screaming, and he's all exploded like the dude from Tropic Thunder.
Yeah. To the point, like, I was like, why is blood only splurting out occasionally? And I was like, oh, that's his heart beating out the last bits of his blood. Yep. It's like, oh, my God, that's so raw. But
dude,
it looks
it's so
goofy.
weird when he's walking backward, because I'm just thinking, it's like, oh, he's going to step on a landmine, isn't he? And then he does, and you're like, "Yep, that's how it goes."
And it's framed, or it feels, because I was thinking the same thing. I was like, I didn't think landmine. I thought someone was gonna like shoot him in the head, but I was definitely like, it was building intensity, and I guess it made sense that he was about to die, because he was like, well, all my car dealerships, they just use my name until they need someone else, and woe is me, let me telegraph my death to the audience. But I didn't really see anyone dying until after he died, and then I was like, oh, shit, all bets are literally off.
Yeah. It's funny. You're talking about like him being like, oh, I'm broke, I don't, woe is me and all that.
Yeah.
And then he starts like yelling about the evils of money as he's walking backwards conspicuously. I was thinking it would be really great if, as he was walking backwards conspicuously, he was monologuing about how he's only 1 week from retirement.
I'm finally going to marry the love of my life, and my son is going to graduate, and I'm going to be there for his graduation. It's the only thing he ever wanted out of me. But like, it sets up so that when his son, and again, I was talking about deep staging, like, it's so inconspicuous when he steps on that landmine that the only reason something happened is because you hear a click.
Yep.
You're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
And then like all of them.
It's funny because like when the guy who gets blown up, like, he very conspicuously steps onto a landmine, where you're like, as he's speaking, I was thinking he's going to step onto a landmine. Mm-hmm. And then the sun stepping on it is not telegraphed at all. So when he does it, you're like, oh fuck, no, not him too.
Yeah, I mean, and you kind of know he's probably gonna live, like in the back of your mind, but you're not sure because you didn't know that he stepped on it.
Yeah, and they just killed a guy.
Yeah, and then it means that like when they have the firefight in there, it's not just one mine anymore. Now I feel like I'm looking at that field and all I can see are landmines. So it's such an amazing and effective scene. And again, even down to like everyone is sweating and like everyone's nervous and the son is like, I can't move a muscle, and you can see the restraint in him, and they're trying to talk it through and as they get ready and as they go along the rope, when he hands the rope to the son and then ultimately to Richard Jewell, it like the camera tracks with it, so it's like all happening in real time. They do end up doing some cutting, but like it's a great use of like everything that you need to go right to make it effective.
I like how you keep calling him Richard Jewell.
Yeah, because that's who he is.
Well, I know he played Richard Jewell in the Richard Jewell movie, but it's just funny that you just constantly refer to him as that.
Well, like I didn't remember who he was, and then I looked at him on. I was looking up the movie, and I was like, wait, I recognize that name. And I went and was like, oh yeah, and got a claim for playing Richard Jewell, and I was like, oh, okay.
That whole Richard Jewell movie was strange. The discourse around it was weird.
I didn't watch the movie. I feel like Clint Eastwood has made a habit of making movies and putting like a lot of drama into movies that are like real life stories. And I think in Richard Jewell's case there was a lot of like controversy around it.
Yeah.
But like with Sully there was like no controversy at all. And yet they made this huge like overly long, like overly dramatic movie where like nothing happened.
Yeah. Well, with the Richard Jewell one, it's like so heavy-handed on the whole media bad angle,
Yeah.
And, it's true, the media is not good and they do a lousy job, but I feel like I feel like America's running into kind of a trap where people just blame the media for everything so they can vacate responsibility for their own like thoughts and actions.
Well, and again, I didn't see the Richard Jewell movie, and of course, like the whole movie is spoiled if you just do a quick Google search. But like the fact that you're making movies to target the media, which I don't think the media is bad, but I think it's because of the way that the way that we absorb the saturation of media, it reflects poorly because like there's like you have to use your brain and you can't just go with what you read in a headline. And the problem with media is like, you read a headline for something and you're like, oh my God. But then you read the article and you're like, oh, okay, that wasn't nearly as dramatic as I thought it was. It's funny that the media is used in that movie to like be like, oh, we're gonna turn everyone into people with pitchforks. And now everyone's turning into pitchforks against the media.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just, the media does a poor job of delivering information to folks, but at the same time...
I think it does a good job of delivering information. Unfortunately, it's the wrong information a lot of the time.
But that means they're doing a poor
But that's
job.
the problem.
They're delivering like a lot of half-truths and slanted pieces of information, but I also think, ultimately they're driven by money, so they're giving people what they want. They wouldn't be doing this if people didn't just eat it up. And it's like, at a certain level, you can't just blame everything on the media. Like, you got to take some responsibility for how you interact with what the media is putting out there. Like, if what they're putting out there is bullshit, you have to, think critically about it.
You have to call them on it. I agree. I was gonna say, I don't think I have too much more to say about Da 5 Bloods. I will say the scene where Norman and Paul like hug and they have like that Goodwill Hunting moment where like one of them is ugly crying as the other one is like, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. Like I know it's corny, but I loved it.
Yeah. I liked it
like
too.
I bought it 100%. I was like, this is great.
Yeah, I mean, The Five Bloods is a really good movie. I think it's like a high witness, I would say. I mean, it's messy and it's got its problems.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with
certainly
you.
a
I would
high
say
witness.
I think it's a solid witness. I don't think it's a high witness. I think the thing that holds it back is the runtime and a bit of storylines that kind of are there but are kind of like half baked, like the relationship between the one dude Otis and his girlfriend, who he had a kid with, was kind of like it's like it's touched upon in the lightest way possible, and then it's blown out of proportion. Like, she's in on this too, and I'm like, this is weird.
It's the thing with Otis and his girlfriend is handled very strangely, and it's also, I thought it was really weird at the end, like when he kind of introduces himself to his daughter, who sort of knows who he is, but needs that confirmation, and then his daughter has that weird like plastic smile, and then there's like that. It's like the weird David Lynch shot of them like floating down the hallway with like bizarre plastic smiles on their faces. And I was like,
okay,
what is going on here?
Thanks for
I was
reminding
hoping
me
you
of that.
had some sort of critical interpretation of that, because I didn't get it.
Yeah. Two things you reminded me of. Yeah, that was weird where she had that weird smile. I think it might be because she's just not a very good actress. But which I mean is not uncommon for Spike Lee movies. Like he gets a lot of people who it's not they don't have a lot of One, I thought it was a very interesting technique that every time anyone hugged, they did this like double take where like they hugged and then they would cut again to another angle of them hugging. I was like, that's interesting. I was wondering if you had anything about that. And then as far as the scene of them like on a dolly as they had the Sonora cam on and it was going towards them, I don't know if I have anything to say about that. I know that Spike Lee does it in basically every single movie he's made. It's kind of like his Alfred Hitchcock signature. But usually
it's his Raimi cam.
It's his Raimi cam. Yes. Yeah, it's his Raimi cam. But usually it's like in the one that always stands out to me is in Inside Man. Something dramatic happens and then you just see Denzel Washington as the Sonora cam's on him and it's pulling him forward. And it usually is to represent some sort of like, it's supposed to represent like an emotional moment. Like in the case of Inside Man, it's like Denzel Washington, his entire world has shattered and he's kind of just like floating through at an extremely fast pace, getting from one point to another, but he's still like, it kind of like replicates System Shock. And in this, I think it was kind of like transcendent happiness is my only guess. Like, oh, I'm going to be in your life forever. I lied about going back to the States because I have no backstory.
Well, but like,
So
why?
I'll be here.
If it's supposed to be transcendent happiness, why is it doing like the no theater version of transcendent happiness and not something more in line with the tone of the rest of the movie?
Because I just think she's not a very good actress.
But Otis does it too. That's the problem.
I don't know. Like, I think Spike Lee's such a fantastic director, but I've also heard him like make speeches, and so if his speeches or anything like if his direction is anything like some of the speeches he makes, I can see him being like, all right, guys, this shot is going to be like, you are smiling and you are smiling and they're like giving legitimately like really happy smiles. It's like, no, not like that. I need you to dial it back. I need those eyes open. I need the peeps open. All right, pull the face down a little bit. Okay, yeah, no, I love it. I love the look. Let's shoot it. And he only did one take, and like that's the take that made it in there. Like I feel like it's like a visceral thing of like, I don't know. That's just it. I don't have an interpretation really. Like maybe he's found false happiness. I don't know. It's so weird.
Their smiles are so big and weird looking. It almost looks painful, you know?
I know. I don't know. It's really weird. It's like when they do those, like when they would just like do a cutaway of like a photo and it's just they don't even have someone holding the photo. It's just like the photo insert. It's like that's kind of like a Spike Lee thing. I feel like this is also just like a Spike Lee thing. He's like, this is it. And I don't know. I think it transcends explanation. That's horrible.
It transcends explanation.
It's just, it is. It works on a visceral level of creeping you the fuck out, maybe.
Yes.
Of creeping you the fuck out.
Absolutely.
But I think it's a solid witness. I can understand it being a high witness to you. I think the runtime, though, it does.
Oh, the runtime
really
definitely
hurt
holds
it.
it back. I think like all the topical stuff works in this movie, but I can understand surprisingly, yeah, because topical stuff usually doesn't work at all. Like Ryan Johnson. But I can understand how the topical aspects would turn off people who may otherwise be into it. Just because,
Yeah. I mean, that's just it. Like, I don't know anyone who wouldn't be, like, into it that isn't going to watch it. Like, I don't know how it would turn off people who might be thinking about watching it, because I feel like the first 30 seconds of the movie would turn off anyone who wouldn't be interested in it.
That's true,
like,
it would.
As soon as the documentary footage starts. But if you're a Spike Lee guy, if you like his movies, then you're like, maybe he's too light on the political commentary.
What? No.
Yeah.
Compared to what?
I Do the Right Thing. I don't know, because like it usually, like, the political message is, like, at least recently had been, like, first and foremost in his movies. Like, I know Red Hook Summer, that was a major thing, was like the political commentary and stuff in that. Or like even in Black Klansman, I would assume that it's highly politically charged, but that's just an assumption.
Well, yeah, it's highly politically charged, but
or Bamboozled.
I don't even know what that is.
Like, that's I feel like people watch a Spike Lee movie going in knowing that it would be, like, pretty political.
You would hope so. Otherwise, they're very uneducated. It's like, what? Martin Scorsese? I didn't want to see a gangster movie.
Or like, what? A Brett Ratner movie? I didn't want to see something that looks like a fucking shitty diaper baby that doesn't have anything going on in it.
A David Lynch movie?
What?
I didn't think this would be weird at all. Like, oh, yeah, if you watch
Sex? What?
Like, if you watch a Spike Lee movie and you're expecting it to be completely apolitical, I don't know what to tell you. That's like,
Yeah.
that's like going to a football game and expecting everyone to social distance.
Yeah, I agree with you.
It's like watching a boxing match and going, why aren't these guys wearing face masks? They're not social distancing.
Watching a boxing match and being like, why is it so bloody?
Actually, boxing matches are usually pretty bloodless because the gloves don't allow for cuts most of the time. Unless you get someone with a stitch.
So everyone just kind of looks like they go in and they're like, why does everyone's face look so inflated?
Yeah, everyone's just kind of like red and swollen and slurs their words when they talk.
I'm just going to let that one sit there. I'm not going to touch that one at all.
Look, boxing, the brain damage is much worse than it is in other combat sports, just because the matches are so long, the gloves are so puffy, so you're just getting hit in the head over and over again without really getting, like, knocked out or anything. And also they have, like with MMA, like, if you knock someone over, you can follow them to the ground and finish the fight right there.
Yeah, you submit them.
Or they just, they can't defend themselves because you're just wailing on them, so the ref stops the fight.
Yeah.
But with boxing, it's just like someone gets knocked over, they have 10 seconds, which, it's up to the referee how long that 10 seconds is.
Yeah.
To get back up, and then they can just get brained over and over and over again.
It's like, why does he? It's like it's like Raging Bull. He just keeps fucking standing up.
I know.
It's like, really? Pretty sure you're done, dude. No. Look, see, I'm standing. Go ahead and hit me again. Oh, I'm on the ground again. Like, years later, they're trying to do poor stand-up comedy and getting shouted at by bald fucking Joe.
Gotta love that CTE stand-up.
Wasn't it funny? You haven't told a joke yet. I haven't?
No one understands what you're saying, man.
So bad. If you haven't seen, I will say this, if you haven't seen Inside Man, it's worth a glance. To me, it's fun that Spike Lee has been able to do movies where he does not have any writing credit, and he just kind of goes in there and kind of like a director for hire. Kind of like
Yeah.
in Old Boy it didn't work, but in Inside Man it worked really well. Yeah, I don't think he has he doesn't have a writing credit on it. So, and Chiwetel Ejiofor's in it too. So, yeah, he's a minor role. He plays Denzel Washington's partner, but it's good. Well, you can tell me if you like it or not, but it's definitely a witness to me. It's a high witness. It's good. It's a tightly plotted movie. So Spike Lee's a weird guy, but he's a highly entertaining filmmaker.
Oh yeah, he's kind of like Steven Soderbergh, hit or miss,
Yeah.
but he's never boring.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I mean, there are some projects that he's done, and again, I hate to keep beating up on Red Hook Summer, but like for some reason that's like my go-to. Like Red Hook Summer is just a movie that I just have no interest in, and it was kind of in a weird place in his career where he could not get a movie made if his life depended on it, and I'm kind of glad he's out of that. Like I'm kind of glad that he can now start making more movies again, because he's like you said, he's. Even when his movies are bad, they're usually pretty interesting on some level, even if it's just a visceral style level.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, that's not enough for me to actually watch it, but definitely pieces of it. Definitely piees of it.
I
'Cause it
definitely
does
watch
stuff that no one else
like
does.
I can watch something that's only interesting on a stylistic level if it's short.
I agree. Not a 2.5 hour sprawling mess.
Yeah. So final rating is a witness.
Final rating, I think, between the two of us is a solid witness.
Yeah.
Well, as a witness.
Witness for you, high witness for me.
High witness for you.
Nets out to a witness.
It nets out to a witness. I'd be interested to know what you think would have helped put it to Shiny and Chrome. But
Shorter, more competent action sequences.
oh yeah.
Yeah, just it needs to be shorter. There's a lot of like aimless talking about stuff that could have just been cut.
There's definitely a scene or two that's just that just goes on and on, like the chicken scene. I was like, dude, this is going on and is not going anywhere.
Yep.
Take them scissors. Well, there you go. There you have it. That's Da 5 Bloods. Quick side note: I thought it was funny that anytime there would be something that was the something in the documentary footage, he always changed it to "duh."
Yeah.
And that all of the subtitles, really wonkily, every single first letter was capitalized, and the word "gold" was in yellow. I
Yep.
was like, I like those. Those are nice touches.
I always like creative subtitles.
Yeah, me too. It makes the whole experience more fun. Anything else? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to
No,
say
you
The
did have
Night
something else.
Watch is a terrible movie, but it is the king of creative subtitles.
The Night Watch with Vince Vaughn.
No,
The Russian
the
movie.
Russian movie.
Got it.
Directed by Timur Bekmambetov, featuring a fight scene where a guy uses a light pole and a pair of scissors as his weapons, or like a fluorescent lighting tube and a pair of scissors as his weapons, and then his opponent uses his own spine as a sword.
Yes, is that movie worth watching?
It's worth having a few drinks and then watching.
Well, that's better than the last movie I had a few drinks and watched, which was Pathfinder.
Oh,
Holy shit.
It's more fun than Pathfinder just because it's so batshit insane.
Got it. That hence the drinks.
Yep. I mean, I had to watch it sober because I had to do an assignment on it, but
The whole time you're just like staring at that bottle and you're like, fuck, dude, if only I could. It's so close, but so far. Timur Bekmambetov, who somehow still gets work.
hey man,
I'll never understand
him
Hollywood.
and Ruben Fleisher are a mystery to us all.
I mean, at least Ruben Fleischer had some success with Zombie Land.
Yeah,
They must really
Timur
like him at
Bekmambetov had
Sony.
some success with Wanted.
Yeah, I have a friend who was a big fan of the comic, and like it was years before I actually saw the movie, and as I was watching it, I was like, this is actually kind of funny as a parody of like assassin movies and stuff.
Yeah,
and the
Wanted
fact
is
that
a decent movie.
I would say it's great watching James McAvoy beat the shit out of Chris Pratt, which is something I've always wanted
Oh
to
hell
do.
yeah!
Fat Chris Pratt, poor Chris Pratt, but like
I don't
the
ever
fact
feel
that
sorry for Chris Pratt.
yeah, that's true. I don't either. That's a good point. But like the fact that James McAvoy just the entire movie is just like, I'm sorry to everything that's happening. I was like, this is so ridiculously stupid and it's great and I love it.
Yep.
I love every moment of it. Curve the bullet into success.
Curve the bullet.
It's like, this is such a dumb gimmick, but this is so great. Oh man. Maybe Betmambetov will have another movie like that in the future.
You know, I always figured Ruben Fleischer kept getting work because of like Hollywood nepotism, and somehow he was related to Max Fleischer. Not the case at all.
No, I think Sony just really likes him. Like, I think his movies, aside from the Gangster Squad, yeah, I think all of them have done like decent on a relatively low budget. And then Venom did well enough that it got a sequel.
Yeah.
But he's not directing the sequel.
I mean, Zombieland got a sequel as well, so.
Which he did. But Zombieland did like pretty good. Like, I think for a lot of people, Zombieland might have been an entrance into the zombie genre. I know it's true of my brother. Like, he had never watched it, and Zombieland was like his entrance in.
I don't know. I can't remember what my entrance in was, but I do like Zombieland a lot.
Was it The Walking Dead?
I never watched The Walking Dead. Dude, you know I hate Robert Kirkman.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's
anything,
right,
any one of his comic books or anything based on one of his comic books, I have no interest in. Just because it's all pointless gore for the sake of shock value and nothing else.
I never knew that was why. Because did he do Invincible?
Yeah.
Is that the one that everyone knows him for?
Yep.
Aside from The Walking Dead?
Which I also hate. Because it's 100% shock value.
I think my entry was the original Dawn of the Dead by George A. Romero. My friend let me borrow a copy of it, and I watched it, and I was like, okay, I guess, but Resident Evil, the games, maybe, would be the only other thing I can think of. Maybe Ruben Fleischer has another really good movie in him. I heard actually that Zombieland 2 wasn't that bad. I heard it was pretty funny.
Okay, that's good.
So, yeah. And I mean, Venom is basically is like the Zombieland of body horror movies. So, yeah. I don't think that's what
I don't think I've ever heard that
be.
take before, but it's interesting.
Oh, no, yeah, that's what I thought when I was watching it. I was like, oh, it's
the Zombieland of body horror movies.
Yeah, because like the whole thing is like it's not serious at all. Like there's a point where the Venom symbiote is. Did you see it?
Venom? Yeah, I saw it in theaters.
Oh, okay. You didn't think the whole thing was a giant comedy?
No, it is a giant comedy. I just didn't realize it was the Zombieland of body horror.
Oh, well, like Zombieland is like, oh, it's a zombie movie, but we take all of the cliches of a zombie movie and make them goofy.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to take all of the things of a body horror movie and make them goofy. You know, like,
that's
the fact
true.
that Tom Hardy's just like trying to resist eating a live lobster. Like, I was like, that's funny. Or like, he eats like all of that like grody chicken and throws it up. He's like, what the hell is wrong with me? Anything else you have to say?
Nope.
All right, neither do I. That was Da 5 Bloods. We just threw it under the wheels. I'm Matthew.
I'm Gabe. Plugs for all the usual shit. We have a website. Yeah. We should be getting a new website sometime soon. Hopefully by the time this episode comes out. We got a new logo, yeah. Follow us on Facebook. Email questions, comments, concerns, hate,
movie reviews,
love,
or
whatever.
Movie suggestions.
Yeah, suggestions to underthewheelspodcast@gmail.com. And podcast is on Apple Podcasts and Stitcher.
Yes, it is. Now with that, I'm Matthew.
I'm Gabe.
You've just been Under the Wheels.
Okay, I'm recording now. I have 2 bars. I hope this thing doesn't screw me over.
Just keep an eye on it, I guess.
I saw something the other day that's like, you know, some Native American tribe, like the Navajo, say that inside you there are 2 wolves. One only drinks during the day, and one only drinks at night. You are an alcoholic.
I started listening back to the because I was assembling the podcast together, and I was like, why the hell does Gabe say who told you that? A serial rapist? And I listened back.
This is
It's
super
been
not
paid.
interesting to me. I did not notice either of you guys posting black squares on your social media platforms. So you guys are racist, obviously.
Pretty much.
Actually, I don't know if you did, Matt. I didn't. I was.
Actually, no. I just chose not to
There's,
participate.
like, so many of them.
Choosing not to participate is not the same as being racist.
Are you
I
sure?
haven't-
part of the problem,
Are-
I
you-
haven't posted anything on social media about it.
Are you sure that you're because what I've been told is silence is consent. So
Who told you that, a
The
rapist?
fuck? That was I was like, oh man, that was a good one. That was a good one. Shit. Bless you.
I wonder how badly those blew out the microphone.
Should I take it and put it at the ending stinger?
Maybe.
just you sneezing. See, that was a 4.0 on the decibel chart. On the Richter scale, I should say.
Finished.